Ooh, that was well timed. That was well timed, Nilmi. Thank you for the 21. I'm doing great. How are you? Welcome to the stream, everybody. It's the first stream of the week, even though it's Wednesday. That's because the streaming schedule is a little shifted this week. I told you guys about it on Discord and on the last Sunday stream. But of course, I'm going to be live this week on Friday for a Challenger Cup. I'm going to be live on Saturday and on Sunday for YCS Indie watch parties. So I decided to take Monday and Tuesday off because I'm not going to have a day off until after Sunday. So we're still going to have plenty of streams this week. Hope you're looking forward to the weekend streams. I am. So yeah, here we are, Wednesday stream. Welcome everybody. We have a bunch of things to do today. Locals recap from yesterday, as always. I did go, and I played Melodious this time. We'll talk about that in a second, how that went. We have a new Master Duel Forbidden Limited list to go over. I guess this is these news are a couple days old, but I haven't been streaming since. I think it was 2 days ago or something. So we're still gonna talk about it. And some other stuff. I heard someone brought Tenpai Runic to a tournament. So obviously that was sent to me, and we're gonna take a look at it. I haven't seen it yet, but it sounds very funny. So we're gonna look at that. Some other reactionary content that I have planned for today, as well as we're gonna have the podcast with Farfa later today. The sorting stream is tomorrow. The big Q&A sorting stream. I have it all prepared basically. And by prepared, I mean I've let you guys submit questions, and I have a lot of stuff that needs to be sorted, which is that's like the opposite of preparing, but yeah, accidentally prepared the sorting stream because everything is a mess. Okay, so we're gonna do that tomorrow. That's gonna be fun, I think. And yeah, today it's just gonna be all kinds of different stuff. So let's hop right in with the warm up. Let's see how rusty I am on Card Guesser. So you made a mess, yeah, but like not on purpose. It's just been like that. Well, anyways. Yesterday, I found out that Platinum Secret Rare from Rarity 2 is my favorite rarity. Dude, I was at Locals yesterday, I guess. I was at Locals yesterday, and people were opening up Rarity Collection, right? And shocker, people liked it. And I looked at the Platinum Rarity for the first time in person, and I gotta say, that's a pretty dope rarity. Like, I'm a little annoyed that it wasn't like this in the first one already, because in the first one, I got myself collector's rares because I thought that was the best rarity in Rarity Collection 1. So I got some of my staples in that one. So now for Rarity Collection 2, I'm like, well, do I get the staples in collector's rare again just so they match, or do I get the platinum because that's the one I actually like the most out of Rarity Collection 2? Well, very first world problem to have, but anyways. Did we open a box on stream already? We haven't. It hasn't arrived. I think they forgot, but I also forgot to remind them. So I don't know. It's yeah, well, we might do it at some point. All right, let's begin. That is Zure. Yep. I think that's Driver. Yeah, I know my boy. Toon Mermaid. No. Oh, Red Archery Girl. Right, it's not the Toon one. This is very old. It's a vanilla. I don't know what it's called though. I'm gonna skip it. I'm gonna lose too much time on it. It's like, yeah, Anthrosaurus. Okay, this is a Valkyrie. The problem is there's no problem. I just guessed the right one right out of the bat. Easy clap. I think this is not a mirror force. If it would be a mirror force, it'd be blazing, but I don't think it is. Crimson fire? I think this is a counter trap, yeah. Madolche. I'm pretty sure it's a Madolche, but I don't know which one. I can't tell. Oh, this is Messengelado. This is like Chemi Critter Oxyox. Yeah. Oh, I like how you all caps typed the completely wrong answer, Varva. I don't know what this is. This is, I think, a ritual spell for something. Chakra? No. TG accelerator, something accelerator. Oh no, it's not. I was thinking of Morphtronic accelerator. What is this one called? Dude, how many TG cards are there? Okay, guys, you can stop typing TG in the chat now. We've like I know it's TG at this point. Okay, well. Zeta reticulant. No idea. Not the slightest idea. Mist Valley Windmaster. This guy feels familiar. Overlay booster? No. Tomahawk. Oh. Pantheism. It's good that the zoom started in the middle because it had that line. Oh god. Oku, no. Oku Beam. That one. Yeah. I have no idea. Blind. Oh, it's obliteration. Right. That's the dice roll card, right? You have to roll 2 dice and then destroy, like, people played that in Zoo. That's Ojama King. Is that multi-threader? That's what I was thinking. Multi-threader. Yes. Oh, Fire King Island. Ah, why did I zoom? Shining Angel. The bread boy, thank you for the 16 months. Appreciate that. I'm glad you're happy to be here. System. Is that system down? Okay. That looks like Therion stuff. That's Kit absolutely vibing. Oh, is that Rindbrum? Okay. Super heavy samurai. Scales. No. Oh, it's okay. Prep defense. Okay. Trackroid? Borreload X Charge Dragon. Yep. I don't know. Is that a Battle Wasp? Azusa? Oh, it is a Battle Wasp. Okay. Okay, old card. I don't think I know which one this is. Oh wait, no, it's Wink Dragon number 2. This one. Yeah. Oh, is that Fushio Ricci? Yep. And then we have Koakimeru. Is that Supplier? No. Then I don't know. The spell. Core reinforcement. Oh. Magna Dragon? Yeah, the little tuner. Oh, it's the little Aztec thingy. Oh, dude, this is Apo. This thing. Fabled? Solkius? Milu? Oh, is it a reptilian? Melusine. No. Echidna? Echidna. Okay. I thought it was Solkius. Fossil. Is that Skull Knight? Skull King? Skull Knight. That is some rank up magic. I'm skipping that one. The 7th one. I'm pretty sure this is not the 7th one, by the way. This is like the 200th one. That's Umastrix. Okay. It's the electric kid thingy. What? A Silo hero. I always think this one's called Watt Kid, but Watt Kid is different. No idea. Do not know. DD reroll. Oh, that's a speedroid. Yeah. Oh, that's Ancient Warriors. Oh, I'm skipping the Ancient Warriors so fast. It's even the worst thing possible. It's like an Ancient Warrior spell trap. No shot. Oh, that's Coral Dragon, isn't it? Yeah. Wait, is that's summon limit? That's not summon limit? Summon Breaker? Oh. I thought it looked a little off, but I couldn't think of another card that looks like that. Okay, who are you? You feel familiar. That's DDD. King Apocalypse? Yeah. That also feels familiar. Does it? That's Fire Formation something. Yoko. Yeah. Magician's Robe. Yeah. I've seen this, but I don't know. I do not know. Photon Change. Easy. This is massive whale. Sea Stealth Attack 2? Okay. This is Farfa, isn't it? Oh no, it's Skarm. Skarm has those wings. You're right, Skarm, not Farfa. Is that Suship? But which one is that? Hiru Suship. Dude, I played these in Duel Links for a brief moment, but I don't recognize this one. Okay. Don't know. Yo Senju. Izna. Oh, it's Samurai Destroyer. Well, we don't have time for it. Was it Samurai Destroyer? I think it was. Well, he's not too bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. It's right in the middle. It was okay. It was okay. Saturn, I'm glad to hear that. Congratulations on picking up Runic. Thank you for the 17 months. Also, JXC, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, we're looking for a dark monster, high level, high attack, low defense, not an exceed. It's a vanilla. Wait, it's a vanilla. High level vanilla, less defense than 1500, high attack. Old. Okay. It could be Summon Skull, right? That's like 1200 defense. Okay, it's a fiend. It's level 5. Oh my god. It's level 5. What about Garnesia elephantis? That's a beast. That's level 7. That's not dark. Like literally everything about this is not work. Terror King Salmon. Is that a dark? That's a water. Yeah, that's a water. That's a fish. That's also not a fiend. Oh god, level 5 fiend vanilla. Earl of Demise? No. It has more than 1200 defense. It's not Earl of Demise. Succubus Knight? So it's a level 5 vanilla from 2002 that has either 1600 attack or 1550 attack, which already means it's the like one of the worst cards ever printed because you need a tribute for like a 1500 beat stick. Morinfen? Yeah, that's it. See, I've seen it. I had no idea what this card's level even was. I had no idea what that like. Yeah. Anyways, here we are. Okay, calm down, dude. Thank you for the full year, though. Yeah. OCG meme. What was this meme about? I forgot. I remember that now that you said it, I remember there was something, but I forgot what it was. What was it about this card that was so funny, like to OCG people? They just like it for no reason. They just like picked it for kind of like how we just like have Jerry Beansman or something. They voted for it in a sleeve ranking. Okay, I see. It's just kind of arbitrary, right? There's no like deeper meaning to it. The embodiment of old high level vanilla card design. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's like funny because yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. We have a couple things to go over today. Because I was gone the last few days. I missed a couple of things. I also went to locals yesterday and I played Melodious, which is also the deck that Herman in chat won Swedish Nationals with. Congratulations again. And we're going to be talking about my experience. And I actually thought the deck was pretty good, even though I played pretty poorly with it because I didn't even look at a single combo beforehand. But we'll talk about that in a second as well. Before we do that, Melodious is broken. It did feel pretty good. Like, unironically, I was pleasantly surprised about the depth that the deck had, because I went there kind of expecting it like, well, okay, we just like throw some hand traps and do some one card combos, but I think it's a lot more than that. So yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. The thing I want to talk about first though is the new Master Duel Forbidden and Limited List update, and that one's actually quite interesting. Now, I have already seen it because it happened like I think 2 days ago, and the so it's not going to be a blind react. We don't have to go and scroll and slowly pretend like I don't know what's happening. So let's just go over it. Let's just recap the changes and then talk about it a little bit. So here it is. I don't know if I can fit the full changes on the screen. No, I can't. Anyways, we have Forbidden Calamity. Phenomenal ban, or we all know about that. Like, we all know, like, this is one of the things that I really want to happen in the TCG as well, but here we go. We got it in Master Duel. I'm not entirely sure what the exact like cause for them is to do it right now, because I don't know if many decks are doing it at the moment. Maybe it's a preparation for Centurion release at some point in the foreseeable future. I don't know exactly when we get those. Maybe it's because people have been doing it a lot with Horus cards, Horus Naturia. Yeah, maybe. Honestly, I don't care what their reason is to do it exactly now, because I'm happy it happened. So I'm not gonna ask these questions. I don't really care. I'm just happy it happened. And then we have Wanted and Snake Eye Ash Limited. Now I wanna talk about the rest of the ban list real quick, and then come back to this and give you guys my opinion on this, because there's a lot of things that are good about this, and there are some things that are bad about this. which I've already touched on in my latest, like when we played the Limit 1 festival, we talked about this already a little bit. Because I'm not a fan of consistency hits, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. We have cards to be semi-limited, Sprite Jet. I think this is a good decision. I think sprites are in a pretty rough spot in Master Duel right now, even though they do have Elf still. I think 2 blue, 2 jet is kind of like a sweet spot for sprite cards if they want them to be somewhat viable but not too powerful. I think with Elf legal, you got to be careful what you do with sprite cards, because the TCG basically shows that even in a format without Maxi, as long as Elf is banned, the sprite cards basically can be at 3, right? Because the sprite cards in the TCG are like fine, you know, sometimes you play them, but like not very often, and the power level is okay. But as long as Sprite Elf is legal, I think it's dangerous to put them any higher than that. However, I do think with 1 jet, the deck felt a little bit too bad, right? And I think 2 jet is kind of like where it's at. I think this is like now it's like reasonable to play certain sprite variations again, even though 1 beaver is still pretty bad, right? So can't really play the nimble package to a great extent. But yeah, I agree with this one. I think it's fine. And then we have a bunch of things that go back to 3, and there's a couple bangers here. We got Engage, that's now unlimited in every single format, and I do think that so far it has proven that in every single format, Engage can be at 3 without a problem, right? Like, it's like people are trying to play it in the TCG right now, and some to like moderate success, especially when you play like a Sky Striker engine in other decks. But I do think that sort of is fine nowadays, right? Like I think it's okay. I think it's a fine engine. I think having to go through the motions to put 3 spells in the graveyard to then get a +1 is reasonable. And I think it's a good change. I'm looking forward to it, especially because, you know, I like this Sky Striker engine in a bunch of decks. I think it's fun. Monkey Board back to 3 is interesting because this is the first format out of the 3. As you can see on the screen, it's at 1 in the TCG, it's at 1 in the OCG. So Master Duel is the first format to put this card to 3. Conceptually, I don't have an issue with this at all. But you guys know that I don't really like Pendulum, so I don't have strong feelings about this. Like, I'm mostly just hoping that this doesn't really make Pendulum combo decks viable, but at the same time, I can't really argue against the fact that Pendulum decks could need some help. So here we are. Rite of Ramesir is back to 3. Master Duel. Okay, now I'm getting stuff confused. The OCG has Griffin Rider banned, but Master Duel doesn't, right? Master Duel still has Griffin. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct. Okay. And Enchantress is currently at 1 or 2. It's at 2. Okay, so you basically have the full adventure package minus 1 Enchantress, right? That's strong. At the same time, Diego, thank you for the kind words. Appreciate the full year. Zaza, thank you for the 3. I think this is okay, even though similar to Pendulum, I was never a huge fan of the formats where people played like adventure combo piles, right? It's not my favorite type of format for these kind of decks to exist. At the same time, these cards are already at full power in the TCG as well, and like we're just not really seeing anyone do anything with it. And I feel like at this point, whenever you're playing an adventure deck, you are playing a pretty wacky deck in order to, like, you get an Omni Negate, but you have to play a bunch of bricks, and you have to play a deck that doesn't use, you know, a lot of the very strong normal summons that we have. So you it's kind of like an okay payoff, I feel like, at this point in time. Like, and once again, this is something that in 2022, I wouldn't have thought that we would ever get here, you know? Like, because what this made me remember is that in 2022, everyone on every single banlist discussion or banlist prediction was putting the adventure cards on their, like, stuff, right? Everyone was like, yeah, this stuff needs to get limited or semi-limited or ban Griffin or whatever. And the TCG just never did any of that. Like, they never hit adventure ever, which at the time people criticized it, and I'm sure I criticized it at some point as well, probably. But then looking back at it, I feel like it was an okay decision to just leave it be, right? Just leave the cards there, and at this point I feel like it's fine. So yeah, maybe the whole adventure, like Herman is saying in the chat, maybe the whole adventure thingy was just more of a problem of other cards, right? Like Halka Fibrax or whatever, right? Like I feel like there were other cards that this facilitated that were problematic, and I think right now it's fine. Steam the Cloak, I'm also completely fine with. It's a good card. It might see play at some point. I do like Steam the Cloak. But I don't think it's a problem. And it's at 3 in every single format now, and I think that's okay. So overall, I think this is a good list. Let's be real. We're going to talk a little bit more about the specific hits to Snake Eyes. But in general, what this list does is ban Calamity, which is a toxic card, hit Snake Eye, which is realistically the deck that needs to get hit in Master Duel the most. And it unlimits a bunch of cards that deserve to be unlimited, right? And so I think that's a good list. That's a W, especially compared to some of the recent ones that we've gotten. I like it, right? Especially because they're not doing some weird ass hits to like random cards that are because they're not ultra rare or something. No, they're hitting like the problem cards, right? Calamity, the ultra rare, banned. Wanted, the ultra rare, limited, right? Like actually hitting what matters instead of hitting like weird commons or rares or supers or whatever, right? Like let's ban Snake Eye Birch, you know? Anyways, if you've seen my my most recent YouTube video about the Limit 1 festival, in that video I talk about like why I think consistency hits are not good for the game, and I wanted to, like, even though we've had this discussion on stream a couple times, we haven't had it. I haven't had it in a form where it was like ready to go on YouTube, right? And so I wanted to reiterate over that real quick just to get my point out there, right? And in general, this is going to be a more general discussion. I'm going to get to how I think about these two particular hits in regards to that topic. But in general, my personal opinion is that consistency hits are not good for the game, because what I mean by a consistency hit, by the way, just for context, just so we're all on the same page, is when you limit or semi-limit something that doesn't change the way a combo plays out, it just changes how often you can do the combo. Like, for example, if you have a deck that has, I don't know, 6 starter cards, and you like limit one of them, like what they've been doing with Super Heavy Samurai, for example. It's like, okay, we're putting the crossbow or whatever it's called, right? The Soul Piercer, we're putting it to 2. Or maybe like, I don't know if they actually did that, but like in theory, if you put Vakaushi to 2 or something like that, right? That's a consistency hit because it doesn't change at all how the deck plays. It just changes, it slightly changes the statistics in how often you open those cards. Like they put, what is it, Wagon? They put Wagon to 2. That sort of stuff, right? It changes nothing, legitimately nothing about the Super Heavy Samurai combo, right? The line is the exact same. If you open one of those cards, you can do the exact same stupid stuff, but you can just do it slightly less often, which from a statistical standpoint, it does achieve something, right? Because it makes the deck maybe go from a, like, I don't know, 55% win rate to like a 53% win rate because it has a slightly increased chance of bricking, right? Made up numbers, but you get the point. So in that sense, it does weaken a deck, right? And when a deck deserves to be weakened, that is one way you could do it. However, I would argue that from a gameplay perspective, these sort of hits are not great for the game because it creates frustration in two different scenarios. Either someone is gonna still open the combo and then do the exact same thing, and then as the opponent you sit there and you're like, well, what was this Banlist change for? Like, this feels the same, this is unbeatable, I can't do anything about this. Like, why was that the change, right? Why would they still opened combo, they still did the exact same unfair thing that we all agree is a problem. Why am I still losing to it even though they were supposed to address it on the ban list, right? And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have people that if they brick with Super Heavy Samurai now, right, because they didn't draw that starter, they do nothing, right? And that also doesn't feel great. That's also not very like cool gameplay wise, right? And so you're making it so that either your deck still does the exact same thing or nothing at all, right? And this is why in general I don't like consistency hits. You guys can let me know in the comments down below what you think of these in general. I think that they have a purpose. They do achieve something because they lower a deck's win rate, and if you do enough of them, then a deck becomes unplayable. So they do something. I'm not saying they don't do anything. I'm just saying they don't feel great, and there's a better way of doing it. My better way, what I'm proposing is a better way of doing it, is to simply change how a deck plays. And what I mean by that is that, for example, if we look at Snake Eyes right now, and we're going to talk about the specific hits that they made and why they're not as bad, actually. All this might sound like I don't hate these, I hate these hits, but I don't. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But for example, if you, let's say you limited Diabell Star, right? That would mostly be a consistency / extender hit. Or like, let's say you semi-limited Bonfire or whatever, right? Those would be hits that weaken the Snake Eye decks because they play those cards at 3 copies for a reason, obviously, right? However, it doesn't really change the way the combo plays out. Now, a way you could change the way the combo plays out is, for example, you could ban Snake Eye Oak, you could ban Divine Temple, you could ban Flamberge Dragon, all those things. You could ban original Sinful Spoils, right? All those things would be... You would take one card out of the Snake Eye deck if you banned original Sinful Spoils, for example, right? But it completely changes the entire landscape of the deck, right? Because now Diabell Star can't get you Snake Eye Ash anymore, and so on and so forth. It's like very little input, very little thing that changes, but it completely changes the way the deck plays, right? And those are the sort of hits that I'm a fan of, right? Because then your deck is still consistent, but maybe it's just weaker, and then we see if that's still playable, and then maybe we could play Snake Eyes in a more balanced form, right? That would be my ideal. Now, in this particular instance, both Snake Eye Ash and Wanted, because Snake Eyes is such a powerful deck, these cards have multiple purposes, right? On the very surface level, these are consistency hits, right? Because both Wanted and Snake Eye Ash are starter cards for the Snake Eye deck, right? But that's just because literally every single card in Snake Eye is a starter card, except for like Flamberge and Oak. So yes, these are consistency hits partially, right? Because opening Snake Eye Ash, opening Wanted is a way to start the Snake Eye combo, and so with these hits, you are now slightly more likely to brick. And one bad thing about these hits is that a lot of the time, in a vacuum, if you don't get interrupted, if you open one of these cards, or if you open a Snake Eye starter, you can still do the same combo, right? Because none of the combos involved multiple copies of Snake Eye Ash or multiple copies of Wanted, right? Like if you normal summon Snake Eye Ash and it resolves, then you can do the exact same thing as you could before, right? And that's not great. However, there's a couple of things that are good about these, right? Because another way how I think limiting or semi-limiting a card can be very nice is when it's about like, when it changes something to the resource loop of a deck, right? When it's like, okay, maybe your first turn combo is the same, but maybe your grind game becomes significantly weaker because you run out of those cards faster, right? So even though the deck makes the same board on turn 1, maybe it's easier to deal with because if you can somewhat break it, they might not have great follow-up anymore, right? Which in the case of Snake Eye Ash and Wanted is somewhat applicable. Like, you running out of Snake Eye Ash can happen more often now, right? Because you're always going to use one on turn 1, so you're not going to have another one in the deck. You cannot go for example, one thing you would often do is you would go Flamberge on the opponent's turn to bring back Snake Eye Ash from the graveyard, and then what you could do is you could grab another Snake Eye Ash from the deck to have a normal summon on the next turn, right? And that is not something you can do anymore. At the same time, you can also not really grab another Oak because you don't play multiple Oaks unless you do that now. Maybe you play 2 Oaks now, whatever. Another thing you also can't do is on the second turn, you cannot original Sinful Spoil into another copy of Snake Eye Ash, for example. That does not work anymore. So that's fine. It's a fine hit to Snake Eye Ash. But my favorite part about limiting Snake Eye Ash, and I've said this in the past, Snake Eye Ash is still very easily searchable, right? Diabellstar or Wanted into original Sinful Spoil can still get you Snake Eye Ash. Bonfire can still get you Snake Eye Ash. Poplar into original into Snake Eye Ash still gets you there, right? There's still plenty of ways to find Snake Eye Ash. 1-for-1 as well, yeah. The thing is, Snake Eye Ash was always at the very best when you hard drew it. When you drew Snake Eye Ash, it was the most powerful because all those other cards are multi-purpose. Wanted, Diabellstar, and Bonfire are both starters and extenders. And if you force your opponent to use a quote-unquote extender as a starter, that means that they are going to be easier to interrupt because they have less possible extenders. For example, if your opponent normal summons Snake Eye Ash and you decide to use Infinite Impermanence on it, the possible cards your opponent can have to play through it are Original Sinful Spoils, Diabellstar, Wanted, Bonfire. All those cards they can just have in hand and keep playing, right? If your opponent starts or has to start with a Diabellstar to get to the Snake Eye Ash, then the possible ways that the opponent can continue are much fewer, right? Because it eliminates all those possibilities, right? The same is true about Bonfire. If your opponent has to start with a Bonfire on Snake Eye Ash, they can't simply use that Bonfire as an extender to push through any hand trap, right? And so, while, yes, the Snake Eye deck will still be able to combo relatively consistently, because what is it? You still have like potentially like, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 starter cards. You can still combo, but your combos are going to be much less resilient. They're going to be much less resilient because most likely you're not going to open your one of Snake Eye Ash that often. Most likely you're going to have to use one of your ways that you would normally use to extend as a way to find your Snake Eye Ash to begin with, right? And another big deal is that this is less of a deal for pure Snake Eyes, but even there it matters a little bit. It's very important for like hybrid Snake Eye decks. If you have to use Diabellstar, which is in theory your most common starter now, right? Well, I mean, it always was, but like you have 1 Wanted and 3 Diabellstars making for 4 copies of it. If you have to use your original Sinful Spoil to get to Snake Eye Ash, you cannot use that original Sinful Spoil to bridge into a secondary engine, right? You can't use original to grab Ponyx, which, well, that's more of a thing in the TCG yet, but it's going to be in Master Duel at some point. You can't use original Sinful Spoil to grab Jet Synchron to go into your Formula Baron plays. You can't use your original Sinful Spoil to go into Hydrant, right? So if you're forced to use Diabellstar to start your combo, that is really, really not really bad, but it's like it has a lot of disadvantages over just opening Snake Eye Ash, right? Because one, you don't have that Diabell Star as an extender, and two, you don't have the option to go original into whichever level 1 fire you want to, right? And that's a big deal. So even though these are consistency hits, I think these are the kind of consistency hits that I like, because they have more impact beyond the just, well, they have less starters now. It's a lot deeper than that. And then Wanted in general, I don't like I don't like Wanted. I get frustrated every time my opponent opens Wanted, because it's just like opening Diabell Star but draws you a card. So it's like, Diabell Star is already a good card. Why is this card a better card that's essentially the same card but also draws an extra card for no real reason? Which is annoying to me. I think that's yeah. I still it's still going to be frustrating whenever they draw that one copy, you know. That's another thing, right? Sometimes they're going to have Wanted and it's going to be frustrating, but it is what it is. It's also worth noting that if you open Wanted, the fact that you get to also not only draw a card but also recycle the original is a big deal too, right? Because now the amount of times you can use original in a game is also lower, because you can only recycle it once with the Wanted, and then it's done. Even though with one Snake Eye Ash, I don't know how often you want to use an original Sinful Spoils anyways. But yeah. All together, there were two things I wanted to get across with this discussion. The first thing was why in general I am skeptical about consistency hits. You guys can let me know what you thought of that. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously leave a comment and let me know what you think of this entire topic. But more so, the also the reason why in this particular instance it's like it's a little different, right? Because yes, these are consistency hits, but not only. They have they go a little bit deeper. And I'm as far as my personal opinion goes on whether this is sufficient or not, I am not sure if this is enough. I think Snake Eyes is still going to be something that people play. It's a little bit more high rolly now, because we are getting into that sort of territory where the deck starts becoming a little inconsistent, right? And it starts being a little weak to hand traps, because you don't have like infinite normal summons and infinite extenders anymore. But still, it's a force to be reckoned with. And that is scary to an extent. And there's like other ways to do it in the foreseeable future. You know, there's like whenever we get, for example, the Melodious cards, they would fix a lot of these issues, right? Like the Melodious cards are a way to start your Snake Eye combo with. They give you more normal summons again and all that kind of stuff, right? Like Ostinato is a starter and like all this kind of stuff, right? So I don't think this is the end of Snake Eyes, but it is, I think, still a good ban list and a solid start, right? Especially when I'm looking at it compared to the past one or two ban lists in Master Duel that really I wasn't a big fan of. This one I think is a lot better. But yeah. Rescue Ace was proving to be a contender for best deck. I think this puts it as the best. I mean, yeah, I think Rescue Ace is probably the deck that cares the least about losing Snake Eye Ash. Because there were already versions that didn't even play it, right? I'm not sure if that's true, actually. But like some versions only played Poplar and Diabell Star and Bonfire, right? You could still play it because it still is a fine normal summon, right? But you don't have to. Yeah. So for Rescue Ace, this doesn't matter that much. But at the same time, I have less of an issue with Rescue Ace than I have with Snake Eye, but it might prove to be a problem at some point. Definitely could be, but we'll see. I'm surprised they didn't touch Sprite Elf. Dude, people are surprised about that since like 2 years. Since we have Lifter at 3, Ash is not needed. Lifter is a better normal summon. Yeah, I guess. It's I don't think it's unlikely that Rescue Ace is the best deck now. The more I think about it, it's definitely possible that Rescue Ace is the deck to beat at this point in time. But yeah. Elf is here to stay. Why are people still talking about it? Well, I mean, on the one hand, I get what you're saying. Clearly, they haven't banned Elf in such a long time that they might never do it. But it's still hard to come to terms with that because it's such a powerful card, you know? Like, it's so strong. Solid texture. Thank you so much for the 12 months and good luck at your first nationals. Thank you for the kind words. It's like it's like asking people to stop complaining about Max C, right? It's like, well, clearly they want Max C in the game, so they're never gonna ban it, so why complain about it? Which you have a point, but at the same time, it's really hard not to complain about Max C, you know? Like if you want something to really improve and you're convinced that it'd be a better place without Max C, then you should keep bringing it up, I feel like. Maybe you're wasting your energy, right? Because if they're never gonna do it, you are wasting your energy complaining about it, but that's it's it's understandable. I am still I am still very much looking forward to the next OCG ban list. They have a date for it though, right? Do they? What's the date for the next Master Duel OCG ban list? July 1st. Is that the announcement date or the you're gonna know what the hits are then? Effective date July 1st. Okay, but we don't know exactly when they're gonna announce those. So the reason why, I've said this before, but the reason why I'm so like hyped to see that ban list is because it's the first ban list after they released the Max C replacement, right? And I am so excited to see whether they actually ban it or not. I mean, because like there's two outcomes to this, and they are so polarizing as possible, right? There's no way, like, either look, there's two possibilities for the OCG. Either they released Molchummy Pirelia so they can finally ban Max C, and it would honestly be the most based way of doing it. Now they should have done it like 5 years ago, but still, it would be the most based way of handling the situation, right? Because on the one hand, you have people complaining about Max C. On the other hand, you have people that are afraid of what's going to happen if they banned Max C, right? Maybe they think the game is going to be a little bit too crazy, which honestly, in the TCG, sometimes that does happen, you know? Sometimes it happens. Sometimes there are decks in the format where you're really like, oh, against that deck, I think Max C would be justified. You know, like you look at like Super Heavy Samurai or something, and you're like, yeah, it's hard to argue against Max C if that's the deck that people are playing, you know? And so that's the situation, right? And so their solution is like, well, we're going to ban Max C, but we're going to give you a replacement, if that's what they're doing, right? That'd be super based. Centurion, dude, I haven't played Centurion in so long, and I've only played Pure. I'd have to think about that. I don't know, I'm afraid. I don't even know what the options are. I've seen some Lightsworn Centurion stuff. That sounds fun, but I don't know if it's actually good. Anyways, where was I? Okay, yeah. So if they ban Max C, this entire thing is super based, right? This situation is great. If they ban Max C and Molchummy takes its place as like a more fair version, cool. If they don't ban Max C, think about this. If they don't ban Max C, this is the complete extreme opposite of the spectrum in terms of based, and then it's like over here, it's like they keep Max C in the game and they print another one. Like, what? That'd be so insane. So like no matter what happens, it's super polarizing. Like it's either super based or it's completely ridiculous. They don't even play Molchummy. I mean, they not yet, right? I mean, but they have Max C, right? That does make a difference. And I'm pretty sure they do side it sometimes. They even cut Molchummy from Tenpai to play Phantasma. See, I think that's okay though. Like, I'm not asking for the replacement for Max C to be as ubiquitous as Max C. I think that would kind of defeat the purpose. I think what the card should offer is an option that you can play, like a good card that you can play in case there are things in the format that go a little bit too crazy, right? Not a card that is so broken that you can play it in every single deck without a downside, pretty much, and it's gonna wreck everything in the format, right? Like, I think that's kind of like, I think that's kind of the point, right? It's like, it's not supposed to be everywhere like Max C. It's supposed to be a viable card that keeps some strategies in check without killing every single strategy. You know what I mean? So I would argue the fact that they are like siding Molchummy or playing it sometimes and most of the time don't need to play it because they have Max C, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, or like, because Molchummy is not a bad card. Like, Molchummy is definitely not a bad card. Like, if that card releases in the TCG, I'm sure people will play it because we don't have Max C, and like this card, if decks are in the format that card's good against, people are going to play it. But we'll see. I wonder if the OCG will become more combo heavy if Max C gets shot. I mean, if they ban Max C, they do have to do some stuff on the ban list, of course. Like, it's not just as simple as because of the things that I just said. If they ban Max C, Molchummy is not a direct replacement. It's not as good as Max C, right? It's a good card, and it's meant to be kind of a replacement, but it's not the same. So you do have to tackle some combo strategies on a ban list if you ban Max C still. Like, a lot of the things that the TCG has already done, they would need to do at some point as well. But yeah. I just I can't get this. I just can't get the idea in my head that they make Molchummy Parelia and then they keep Max C around, so now there's like quote unquote more copies of it. that'd be so insane to me. But yeah. Maybe I'm just coping. Maybe I'm coping. Maybe that's what they're gonna do. Maybe they're not gonna ban Max C. And to be precise, the reason why I care so much about whether they ban Max C in the OCG, because like I don't play the OCG, so why would I care? The reason why I care is because two things. First of all, Master Duel is usually not entirely following the OCG's footsteps, but like, you know, if they ban Max C in the OCG, I think eventually they will ban Max C in Master Duel. And I care about that. And the next thing is comparability. I find it super interesting to look at OCG results and all that kind of stuff, but they are so heavily skewed by the sheer existence of Max C. It's such a format and game warping card that whenever I see a deck performing or not performing in the OCG, it's an indicator on how the deck is going to be in the TCG, but it's never, you can never be certain, right? Like, look at Unchained, a deck that didn't really do anything in the OCG and now is like also not doing that much in Master Duel, but literally was the best deck in TCG for like a long time. Plus future card design. That's actually a really good point. There's another thing about Max C that I really care about, and that is that I think, and I'm convinced, that in the OCG sometimes they design crazy combo decks because they want to cater to that audience that like crazy combo decks, but their argument for making those combo decks so strong is like, well, we have Max C to kind of balance it out. And then what happens is those cards get released into the TCG where we don't have Max C and they just run rampant, right? I think the perfect example of this was Super Heavy Samurai, which was like a deck. I'm like convinced that their reasoning to make Super Heavy Samurai as broken as it was because, well, the deck can't play Cross Out or Called by the Grave, so it's gonna get Max C'd a lot of the time, right? You only have Ash or maybe Gamma to stop it. So the win rate of Super Heavy Samurai is not going to be that crazy, right? Because of Max Z existing, right? And then the deck came out in the TCG and was a massive issue. And even in the OCG, it was like super meta. Like they weren't even right. It even backfired for them. So, you know, and that sort of stuff I think would definitely be less, like it would happen less often because they would need to be more careful when they design combo decks because of Max C being banned. But yes. I've been testing with Chummy and it's been perfectly fine. I only draw 2 to 3 cards max. Yeah, I mean that's fine. That's perfect. I wish they merged both formats to one big game. I mean, I would love that. I would love if Master Duel TCG and OCG were the same game, but I think that's wishful thinking at this point in time. I think they've been doing this for like 20 years, and I don't think, yeah. But the only I'd have one condition for that to be a good thing. It's if the TCG gets to do the ban list, not the OCG people don't get to do the ban list. Then I'm fine with it. If they get to do the ban list, I don't want it. Okay. All right. Good talk. Good talk. Why don't you want a format full of semi-limits? Dude, I'm convinced, like, this Master Duel ban list was fine, but I think in order to save workforce, they probably have like, a monthly ban list almost in Master Duel. I think every third one is made by a human, and then the ones in between, they just let an AI do it. Like, like the AI just goes and looks at like win rates and card play rates and is like, yeah, this card is being played very often. I'm gonna put it to 2. And so like this is one of the human made ones that we have now. So the next 2 are gonna be AI again, and like they're gonna like limit Birch and limit Ponix and limit Fire King Garunix, semi-limit Kirin, all that kind of stuff, you know. Limit Contain, limit Extinguish. And semi-limit SP Little Knight. Don't never forget about that one. All right. Let's move on from the Master Duel ban list. And let's talk about TCG format. My personal nationals, German nationals, is approaching. I think, what is it, 2 or 3 weeks at this point? It's getting very close. And I noticed that I've been following the format, but I haven't been playtesting the most serious decks at locals in recent weeks, as you know. Like I brought Paleo, I brought Orcust and all that kind of stuff. Just some decks that I wanted to play for fun. And for yesterday's locals, I decided to try something that has been popping up in the TCG a lot, and that's Melodious. I decided to play pure Melodious to try out those cards, and I'm gonna show you the list and talk about my experience and what I think of the deck, because I did think the deck was actually pretty good, and it is a strong deck. I have some thoughts on it, and I will say I'm happy to report that my locals seems to have gotten a lot more competitive recently after the initial start, because yesterday we had a couple more people than usual, and it was 4 rounds of Swiss, and I played against Snake Eyes, Labyrinth, Branded, and Chimera. So actual people showing up with actual meta decks and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. I did manage to win the locals. I'll leave a link, as always. I'll leave a link to the locals in the description down below, just because I want, in case you're from Germany, living close to Hessen, and you want to check it out. It's I want to help them grow a community. Not sponsored or anything, but I just want to, you know, get some people in here to get the locals growing. I did win locals with Melodious, pure Melodious. I will say this deck was a lot more complicated than I thought, because I made the mistake of going to locals. I built the deck 30 minutes before, and I haven't really looked at any of the combo lines. I was like, it's gonna be fine, right? And then I played it, and then I realized, yo, this deck is way more complicated than I expected it to be, because it has so many weird restrictions. I'll talk about it. Anyways, locals was a little bit of a mess. I got lucky to go undefeated yesterday, because, like I said, people were actually playing meta decks and all that kind of stuff. Like, for example, I played against Snake Eyes, and one of the games they opened no starter, and that's why I was able to win that game and all that. I messed up a couple of things. I'll talk about some of the things that you have to be careful of. So I guess this is also going to be helpful if you're planning to pick up the deck yourself, or if you are playing against the deck, to be aware of all the different restrictions that they have. We'll talk about all of that, and I'll try to explain how the deck works, even though I kind of figured that out myself yesterday on the fly. But the deck was very fun, actually, and we'll talk about that. And it is okay. There's another thing I want to say about Melodious, and that is I have in previous videos, I've talked about Melodious in a way where, when we criticized 1-card combos and all that kind of stuff, I said Melodious feels like Super Heavy Samurai, which is a deck that I really don't like, because you can like splash these cards in all kinds of other decks to have like broken 1-card combo starters. Like, you open Ostinato, for example, in Snake Eyes. You can like make Banshee to search like Poplar or Snake Eye Ash and go into Appaloosa before you normal summon and all that kind of stuff. And my opinion on that particular version, or that way of using the Melodious cards, hasn't changed. That I don't like. I don't like the fact that these facilitate some crazy combos in some other decks. The pure Melodious decks, I think, is really cool, though, after playing it. Because, yes, the deck has a bunch of 1-card combos, but I think the difference between this deck's 1-card combos and other, like, for example, Snake Eye Ash, is that this deck, it's just fair. Like, if you're actually locked into Melodious because you use the Link Monster or First Movement solo, you're not doing anything super crazy. You're doing good stuff. The deck is good, but it's not over the top. I think if this is what 1-card combos do, I'm fine with them. You know, that's the extent to which I am okay with 1-card combos. So I think literally the only thing that's missing for Melodious to be a super well-designed archetype is like one sentence on Ostinato that locks you into Melodious. Literally, that's it. If that was on here, or maybe on one of the new Pendulum ones, you know, like even if they were like, okay, we forgot it on Ostinato, let's at least put it on Refrain or something, right? But anyways, the pure deck is really cool. So let's go into the deck profile really quick. Before we do, I have a word from a sponsor, because if you are looking for OCG accessories like these sleeves, I want to give a quick shout out to Hold On Card Shop. The link is going to be in the YouTube description. You can use Josh5 for 5% off on all of these wonderful OCG sleeves over here. I don't know if they have these specific ones that I'm using in stock, but go check them out in the video description below. Very happy to have them as a sponsor for the channel. And I will also, they sent me this pack of Zeus sleeves from the OCG, which are compliant with the newest what's it called, policy update, you can use these because they are Yu-Gi-Oh officially branded, and I'm gonna give these away to a lucky YouTube commenter because I have enough OCG sleeves myself. I don't need them. I'll give them away to someone leaving a comment on the YouTube video. Once again, thank you to Holon Card Shop for sponsoring the stream and the channel. You guys check him out in the description down below. Use Josh5 for 5% off and get yourself some nice OCG sleeves. Anyways, let's move into Melodious, and I'll walk you through the deck. Now, this deck is not the list is not super fleshed out because it was my first time playing the deck, but I wanna do an effort of explaining the cards anyways, so that you guys know what's going on. Because I knew some of it, but there's definitely some things that I learned. Okay, so Refrain is the first one. Most important part of Refrain's effect is that on summon, she fetches a Melodious monster from the deck, which is really good. And both of the Melodious scales, Refrain and Couplet, when they are in the extra deck and you special summon a Melodious Fusion, they can place themselves back into the Pendulum scales. So that's how you can set up your scales really nicely. So yeah, on summon, fetches a Melodious, returns back into the scale from the extra deck, and in the scale, you can target a Melodious Fusion you control and send a Melodious monster from the deck to the graveyard, which is mostly good because you want to fill up your graveyard with some of these Melodiouses because you have plenty of ways to get them back to your hand or reborn them. Couplet is really, really powerful. If Couplet is added to your hand, either from the grave or the deck, except by drawing, basically, you can revive a level 4 or lower Melodious from the graveyard, which is not quite popular, but it's also really, really strong. And when it's in the scale and you control no monsters that are not Melodious monsters, so either no monsters or just Melodious, you can grab a Melodious spell from your deck to your hand. And you can only Pendulum summon light monsters. And you can also technically search a trap, but we don't play any of these, right? And so these are both really, really strong in this deck. And one reason why I wanted to play the pure Melodious deck was because in this deck, Couplet actually can be played as a 3-of, and you are actually not that unhappy about seeing it. It's not a 1-card combo, but it's still pretty good to draw. And that's what I didn't like about playing Melodious in other decks. It's still good in other decks, but I really liked the feeling of having all these cards actually be good and being happy about drawing it, right? I played 3 Sonatas. This one is relatively simple. You can special summon it from the hand if you control a Melodious, and it boosts everything, every fairy by 500 attack and defense. This card is often being played at 2. I decided to play 3 because I wanted to have more fairies for Herald of Orange Light. I think it's completely fine to play 2. It's not once per turn to special this thing. A lot of the old Melodiouses don't have once per turns. Yeah, I think this is a 2 or 3 of. I think it's fine. It helped me do some OTKs because Melodia is actually like, you have limited access to the extra deck because you're locked into Melodious. That is pretty limited to fusions. And you basically have to, like, sometimes you just have to have your main deck monsters do a lot of work because you can't fuse unlimited times. So sometimes you're just like beating them down with the main deck monsters and this thing boosting everything by 500. Sometimes I put 2 or 3 of these up and everything gets like really big. I think it's fine. And it's just a generic extender. If you get hand trapped, you can go into your Link monster and keep playing from there. 2 Sopranos. This thing, when it's special summoned, you can add a Melodious from the graveyard back to your hand. This is when you can, so this can miss timing. Need to be careful about that. So the easiest way to do it is if you pendulum summon it, it doesn't miss timing. If you but if you revive it with one of your effects, you want to make sure that that is Chainlink 1. And then you have Canon, the Melodious Diva, which is basically comparable to Sonata, because if you control a Melodious, you can special it from the hand. This special summon is only once per turn, though. And the other effect, which might not seem very relevant, is once per turn, you can target a Melodious and change its battle position. The reason why that can sometimes come up is because the Link monster special summons 2 from the deck in defense position. So if you want one of those to be able to attack, you can use Canon to turn it to attack position, which I think is... I didn't do it at my locals, but it can be relevant. Then we have Aria, the Melodious Diva, which is only a one-off, but it's really accessible and really, really powerful. While this special summon card is on the field, Melodiouses you control can't be targeted or be destroyed by battle. So this is one thing you want to try to end on or try to establish relatively early when you play into boards, because this makes all of your stuff untargetable, which is really powerful. Now, I did notice that most decks have ways to deal with this card. Like, for example, I played against Labyrinth, and they obviously had a bunch of ways to deal with it, like Lovely or the Labyrinth Pop and stuff like that. Branded has ways to deal with it in Mirror Jade and Super Poly and all this kind of stuff. Even Snake Eyes can deal with it with Zelantis. Like it's not like you can summon this thing and just sit on it and win the game. It's more like supposed to help you protect from certain things in certain situations, right? It's pretty good to do that. Very good card, but one is certainly enough, I think. And then we have Chopina, and this thing is okay. This thing is really good. Please mention the refrain aria interaction. What is the refrain aria interaction? I'm not sure which one you're referring to. Oh, you mean you can't use the scale effect when you have aria? Yes, that's one. That one, yeah. When you said interaction, I thought you meant like a positive interaction, but yes, you have to be careful. This means you also cannot target your Melodiouses. So you cannot use this to change position, and you cannot use this to send from deck to graveyard. Yes, you're right. And then there's another you can use Couplet if you draw it and reveal to summon as long as the draw wasn't for turn. Right, it says except drawing it for your normal draw. I don't like you in my deck that would only be Concerto. I don't play Desires. I guess Talents. Anyways, Chopina is important for a couple of reasons. It's a level 7, so it's obviously it can sometimes be kind of iffy to draw, but if you can play, it's okay to have it. It's a Maestra, which is important for some fusions. There's melodious songstresses, divas, and maestras, and some of the fusions require maestras, and that's important. And it's once per turn, you can target a light fairy type monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You cannot activate non-light monsters effects during the turn you activate this effect. So this is not hard once per turn. So what you can do with this is you can summon it, you can add something back, you can get it into the graveyard, you can revive it, and then you can do it again. This is really, really powerful, and it's not limited to Melodiouses, it's any light fairy. So one thing you can do with this is you can recycle Herald of Orange Light. Very, very strong. You have to be very aware of the restriction. There was one game against Branded where I used DD Crow on my own turn for I think it was Branded in red or Quem target. I don't remember which one. I used DD Crow, and then I went for a Chopina line. I added back with the Chopina, and then I realized, wait, I can't do that. So I had to put the card back into the graveyard. I was really looking forward to it. I was like, dude, I can use Chopina like 2 or 3 times in this turn. And then I couldn't because I had used DD Crow previously. So you have to be aware of that. It's really powerful. But if you ever have to use a different monster effect in your own turn, like DD Crow or something, which I sided for Branded, then you can't use it at all, and you have to find other ways around that. And that is my that's my monster lineup. I don't think there's anything else you want to play. I think Tam and Polly could be okay. But yeah, it's pretty. The list is pretty cookie cutter. I'm just trying to explain the deck as best as I can, so people know what's going on. Because this is a lot of the stuff I learned yesterday while playing it for the first time. Okay. Then we have 3 Ostinatos. Obviously, you need to control no monsters. Then you can fusion summon a Melodious by sending the material from your hand or deck. And during the end phase, it would destroy that fusion summoned monster and return the materials from the graveyard. That is why you can also bell this. But usually that does not happen because you like fuse with the thing that you summon or do something else with it. This card is not hard once per turn, even though you do need to control no monsters for it. But if it gets ashed, you can activate a second copy, so on and so forth. First Movement Solo is a card that I paid for after the hype. That was very painful, but I really wanted to try the deck. And the card is very expensive now, which is unfortunate. If you control no monsters, you just special summon a level 4 lower Melodious from hand or deck, which is usually your Refrain. And then you can only summon Melodious monsters during the entire turn, which is obviously a really good card. There are sometimes some weird spots where you draw both of these cards and you have to decide which one you use first because both require you to have no monsters. And it's kind of like, I think the more important one to resolve would be Ostinato. So it's weird because if you want to like bait an Ash Blossom, you would want to start with First Movement Solo. But then if your opponent doesn't have the Ash, then you have a monster and you can't use Ostinato and all this kind of stuff. There is ways you can sometimes clear your board. But it's like convoluted. Like you can go into the Flowering a Toil and then banish your entire board and then use the other one, right? Which is really cool. But it's more like those were not the lines that I was going for yesterday because I played the deck for the first time. Those are some advanced stuff that I'm starting to see these sort of things now after I've played the deck for an entire day, right? That is like the sort of stuff that this deck can do is really cool. And then one Concerto. Concerto is the fusion spell you get to search for free from your couplet, and it fusion summons a Melodious by using monsters from Hand, Field, and Pendulum Scale. And when a fusion is sent to your graveyard, you can put it back to the bottom of the deck and draw a card. So it recycles itself, draws you a card, and fusion summons. Really cool. And the basic play you do with Concerto is the way you get there is different. But like, let's say for example, you would go Refrain. Let me do this. You would go Refrain. You would grab Couplet. You would put Couplet in the Pendulum Scale if you don't have anything to revive. You would grab Concerto, and then you would Concerto fuse with these two into a Baja, and then these two would go back into the Pendulum Scale because a fusion was summoned and they're both in the extra deck, right? And that's the main way you can make use of all of these effects in the best way possible, right? That's the Melodious cards for the main deck. And then we have the rest is basically non-engine. I played Prosperity. Prosperity is really strong in this deck because it has a lot of one-card starters and all that kind of stuff. The one thing that's really annoying about Prosperity is that you cannot get your Concerto draw if you use Prosperity in the same turn. It can be very annoying if that happens. But I figured the added consistency was worth it because I noticed that a lot of the times, so what happens is your Concerto is just stuck in the graveyard, right? Like it goes in the grave, and you can't draw with it on this turn. But when your opponent starts playing into your board, maybe a fusion monster gets sent into the graveyard that way, and then you can draw the card on your opponent's turn. And yeah, I saw that Herman, who won Swedish Nationals with this deck, played Desires, which I think is good. However, I was afraid, and I think it was a good decision for me personally. I was afraid that I was gonna mess up the resource loop if I'm missing like certain pieces of the deck, if I have to use Desires. So I think Desires is something that you can try in this deck, but it definitely makes some games harder because you don't have certain cards that you would normally use, right? And so I think in order to learn the deck, it was good for me to just play Prosperity and go for max consistency. And honestly, I didn't mind the restriction too much. I don't even know if I would play Desires at this point, but you can try it. And then Herald of the Orange Light, which all of these are fairies. So this card is really good. It does not conflict with this restriction either because it is a light fairy. and you can even recycle it back from the graveyard. This card is perfect for this deck. I used this on like Nibiru's to safely OTK. That way I didn't have to banish my entire board with Flowering a Toil. All this kind of stuff, right? Really, really, really good card in this deck. And obviously in a format that is very hand trap driven, this helps you play through hand traps. Like I heralded a Bestial, for example, with this and then added it back on the same turn. And so on and so forth. Really, really good card in this deck. And then I played Ash, Veiler, and Imperm as my hand traps. I decided not to play something more situational like Ghost Ogre because I wasn't sure what kind of decks people would be playing at locals. And so I just played a very solid lineup. I felt like there's nothing too deep here. I just like, you know, I played Talents and I played Gold Bites, 40 cards. That's the non-engine I chose. I think Herald of the Orange Light and like generic hand traps are the best way to play the deck at the moment. These ones down here are probably interchangeable if you really want to. And you can definitely mess around with some of the Melodious ratios. I just like tried a cookie cutter list just to learn how the deck works. And that was pretty cool. Then for the extra deck, we have 3 Baja. So this requires any 2 Melodious and is like also from Legacy of Destruction. Really, really good legacy support. While you control this fusion summon card, the activated effects of your Melodious fusion monsters cannot be negated. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can special summon a Melodious monster from your deck. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Melodious in your grave and special summon it in defense position. This card is absolutely crazy, right? You try to fusion summon into this card every single time, whether it depends what you open with. Like if you open Ostinato, you go into this one right away. If you open Refrain, you go Refrain, Couplet, Concerto, and then you go into this. So on and so forth. It's always basically, I think in every single game, this was the first fusion I made. Because it gets you going. It gets you a body on the board that summons another one from the deck. Which can also vary depending on which effects you've already used. You know, if you haven't used Refrain yet, this typically gets you Refrain. If you have used Refrain, then sometimes you can do Shopina, because you can send one thing you can often do is you can summon this, then you can summon Shopina, then you can send a whichever one you want to add back with Shopina, you can send from the deck to the graveyard with the Refrain scale effect and then add it back to hand. All this kind of stuff. I think one thing I want to bring up is this card cannot be negated by Ash Blossom, but I think this card has a very interesting interaction with Impermanence and Effect Veiler, which I'm not 100% certain, but the way I think it works, because it says, while you control this fusion summoned card, the activated effects of Melodious fusions cannot be negated. The way this interacts with Impermanence and Effect Veiler, I think, it's very weird because the effect to summon from the deck is an activated effect. So in theory, that one cannot be negated. However, the effect that prevents your stuff from being negated is a permanent effect, so that one can be negated. So if you impermanence this card, which is a legal thing, the impermanence will resolve and it will negate Baja's effects, which turns off the continuous effect to protect your activated effects is turned off by Imperm, which means that on resolution then, the Imperm resolves, stopping that effect, and then when this is trying to resolve, it's negated. So Imperm and Effect Veiler work on this card, which is why very often you want to summon it in the extra monster zone, and in case it gets Impermed or Veilered, what you can do is you can link it into Gravity Controller if you're not locked into Melodious to get the revive. But this card is very strong. And then we have one of my favorite boss monsters I've seen in a long time in terms of its design, which is Flowering a Toil, the Melodious Magnificat. This card is really, really cool, really, really strong, But honestly, very, very nicely designed, I think, because this thing unites so many things in one card without being, in my opinion, too broken, but really, really cool. So what this card does, this one needs a Melodious Maestra, which is important. Baja is a Maestra, Tripurna is a Maestra. The other fusions are also, Schuberta is also a Maestra. It needs a Maestra and 2 other Melodious. And it has a quick effect that says you can banish until the end phase any number of Melodious monsters you control. Then you can return up to that many face-up cards your opponent controls to the hand. So you banish your entire board until the end phase. It doesn't have to be your entire board. You can also banish just 1 or 2, whichever one you want to do. Banish that until the end phase, bounce up to that many cards. You don't have to bounce anything though. And what this means is that if you summon this and your opponent uses Nibiru, you can banish your entire board until the end phase. And then the Nibiru is not going to do anything to you, and all your things are going to return in the end phase. And it's going to give you, and it also gives you interruption on your opponent's turn by saving all your things for the next end phase. Now, this card is really powerful, but I find it very cool how they managed to give this deck a way to beat Nibiru that isn't just an Omni Negate, right? Because it's super annoying whenever like a deck just gets like, oh, here's a way to make an Omni Negate before summon number 5, right? And I think that's super boring design, right? And then this card is just much cooler than that, right? It's just like you summon this, and the thing is that having to banish your entire board all the time can sometimes be a downside. You know, sometimes it's like, well, I wanted to keep playing, but in order to save my board from Nib, I had to banish everything, so I can't do more stuff from here on out. So I guess I'll have to pass. I'll keep my board, but my turn still ends. Like, it's not like Nibiru doesn't do anything, right? You can do second Ostinato if you're crazy like that, but you know what I mean? And so, this card offers a lot of cool things for the deck. And I really like that instead of slapping an Omni Negate on this, they gave it a really cool way to like interact and so on and so forth. Because it's a really strong card. It's a really, really strong card. If it leaves the field by your opponent's card, either by battle or card effect, you can special summon a Melodious from deck or extra deck, except itself, which is also really powerful. And then there's another cool thing you can do with it, which has something to do with Schuberta, which is that's one of the older ones. It requires any 2 Melodious. During either player's turn, you can target up to 3 cards in any graveyards, banish them. If you do, this card gains 200 attack for each. This effect can only be used once while this card is face up on the field. This is really powerful. Banish 3, quick effect, but it is once while it's face up on the field. One really cool thing you can do is you can summon this on your own turn to interact with your opponent's graveyard. Maybe you banish some of their follow-up. Like I did this against Branded, I would take a lot of the stuff out of their graveyard, right? And then you can banish it until the end phase with a Toil. It comes back. You can use it again on the opponent's turn to have it as a disruption. Really cool way of using this card. Another card that is honestly just fun to play with because it's not super broken. It's not incredibly strong on its own, but if you can make it work in the right circumstances, it's really good. Like it's really fun to play with all these cards. It's a very fun deck, honestly, and it has a lot more interactions than I was expecting that are just like really off the wall. Like, you know, it can protect your hand traps from Called by the Grave. It can also do that, yeah. It is also usable in the damage step, yes, because it gives itself attack points. That's another good point. I didn't do that yesterday, but in theory, yes. If you like, let's say your opponent has, for example, a Branded Retribution in the graveyard, that if you just activate this, they can chain it. What you can do is you can go to battle, you can attack, and then you can go damage step, effect, target your Branded Retribution, and because it's damage step, they can't chain it, for example. Really cool. I decided to play one Bloom Diva, the Melodious Core. I will say this extra deck is exactly Herman's extra deck, except for this card. I put this card in because Herman was playing an Underworld Goddess, and I was late for locals almost, and I scrambled to find my Underworld Goddess, so I put this in. I didn't summon it. I still think it could be okay to keep playing it, because I kind of looked at it a couple times and I was like, I like having this option. You know, like it's so. This is it needs a Melodious Maestra and a Melodious monster. Can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also, you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. If this card battles a special summoned monster, after damage calc, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference between the original attack of that monster and this card. And if you do, destroy that opponent's monster. I think it's a solid card that can out a lot of things in certain situations. And just having another option for a fusion summon is not bad. But I don't know. Like Herman is in chat right now. You can let me know what the specific reason for Underworld Goddess was. I didn't miss it yesterday, but I also only played 4 rounds. So I didn't use this, but I also wouldn't have used Underworld Goddess. But I did like the option of having this card, but yeah. And then we play 1 copy of Bloom Harmonist, the Melodious Composer, which is a Link 2 that requires 2 fairies. And this one says you can only special summon Melodious monsters in the entire turn. So another card with a fair lock on it, which is like literally it's only missing on Ostinato, or the new cards, rather. If this card is link summoned, you can discard a card, special summon 2 Melodiouses with different levels from your deck to your zone's discard points to in defense position. If a Melodious monster discard points to attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. This card is really, really powerful. But the I don't think I used this card to its full potential, to be honest. Like I think you can do more with this than what I did, because a lot of the times I just summoned some stuff in defense and then couldn't really do that much with it. I think the way you're supposed to use this one is because there's another thing that I noticed halfway through or like towards the end of the tournament regarding this, because I was like, a lot of the time I was stuck with a lot of Melodious bodies on the board without many good ways to use them. Because one thing that I didn't realize about this is that it's the effect to add back a Melodious from the graveyard is hard once per turn. The effect to fusion summon is not once per turn. I don't even know if I mentioned that effect. Once per turn, you can fusion summon a Melodious from your extra deck using monsters you control as fusion materials, including this card. So I didn't realize that you can do this multiple times. So I was like, okay, I really want to make like a Schuberta on top of what I already have, but I didn't figure out a way to do it because I had already used this and I didn't realize you could do it again. So I think this is one thing you can do with this for it to have immediate board impact, is you can just summon like another Soprano, and that basically gets you another whichever fusion you want, right? Plus, this is one of the main ways I think how you would play through hand traps. If your let's say your Baja gets hand trapped, you can like special summon a Sonata and go into Bloom and keep doing stuff. So really, really powerful card. I don't think I used it in the best way possible. I made some mistakes yesterday for sure. I was especially the craziest thing that happened is like I was kind of ready to perform some Ostinato and first movement solo combos, and then round 1 I opened first round I opened this this was my hand going first, round 1, game 1. And so give this hand to someone who's never played this deck before, dude. My head exploded. I was like, what am I I wanted to let me just like, can I just open a normal, like, it is combo, I know it's combo, but it's not what I was prepared for. Like it's a good hand, I'm not saying it's not. My problem was that I just had to play the entire game without ever being able to search a couplet from refrain. That just caught me off guard basically, because I was never able to search it. But it's a good hand still. It's not a brick, it's just that it's not what I was expecting to do and I wasn't prepared for it. But I mean, that's what locals are for. That's why I'm really glad I brought this deck to locals, because I'm really glad I got some time with it and played it. It was really fun. Then you play Protector of the Agent's Moon. Needs 2 fairies, contribute itself to, or tribute any fairy to destroy a card. This is a way to out skill drain. And it's a way to if you're not locked into Melodious for the entire turn, you could use this one to clear your board, for example, right? I don't know if this ever comes up, but in theory, one thing you could do is if you draw double Ostinato and they both resolve, which is a really like, I mean, the really first world problem, but like you could like Ostinato, and in theory you could like then make this and tribute your board and activate the second Ostinato. I don't know if that's ever worth it, but you could do that. And then there's also Haggard Lizardos, which can do kind of the same thing. It lets you clear your own board. There was one game where I ended on Gravity Controller and Baguska because I got hand trapped a bunch. And then in a future turn, I was able to turn these two into a Haggard Lizardos, because this can only not be used as link material during the turn it was summoned. So like a couple turns later, I made a Haggard Lizardos, banished it to draw a card, cleared my board, and was able to activate Ostinato afterwards. So yes, that's the and then the Gravity Controller is mainly to be able to link off your Baja in the extra monster zone to get the revive. And then there's an SP Little Knight, because it's SP Little Knight. It's a very strong card. Still didn't make it though. This deck fusion summons a lot of the time, and these most of the time, if you have good hands, you're locked out of these anyways, but you have some options, which is good. Baguska was the only rank 4 I played. Like I said, it came up when I got hand trapped a lot, and it did win me that game. And then there's one Typhon, which I did not make. So yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't miss anything. At the same time, I also probably didn't play the deck perfectly. But that's the extra deck. The side deck also was kind of arbitrary. I played 3 Ghost Ogres just in case anyone would rock up with Tenpai or Pearly or anything of those, any decks of those natures. I did realize there's one thing I realized about this deck that has me like, there was a lot of things I liked about this deck. There were also some things that have me worried about it, like going forward, like whether it's a consideration for me for nationals, I don't know yet. But there were a few things that I noticed, and the first thing I noticed, or like one of the things I noticed in a negative way, is that this card is random. This deck is randomly weak to a lot of the cards that people play at the moment, and one of those cards is Ghost Ogre. Like Ghost Ogre is good against this deck because you can hit the scales. Like hitting the couplet with it, I think is really annoying because you don't get your fusion spell and all that kind of stuff. Then there's more of this, like D-Barrier is really good against this deck because it obviously mainly fusion summons, and people are playing D-Barrier for like Branded and Tenpai, so you get caught in the crossfire there. Bystials are also good against this deck. You don't auto lose to a Bystial, but Bystials are solid, right? When you're trying to revive something, you're trying to add something back from the graveyard multiple times per turn. So very often your opponent's Bystial is going to be annoying, right? And Bystials are being played a decent amount right now because they're good against certain other meta decks. So you are being caught in the crossfire a lot of the times. I think Bystials are solid against this. I don't think they're like, I don't think they auto win against you, but they're pretty good. And then yeah, but still the deck was still fine overall. I played 3 Crows. I did not play Bystials because you don't want to have anything on the board, right? You don't want to start your turn with, this is why there's no Nibiru, there's no Bystials, there's no Phantasme, all those kind of things. I don't want to start my turn with those because I want to be able to activate Ostinato or first movement solo. There's a Tam Tam, which, you know, it does 500 damage. I was low-key considering to... you could consider main decking it, but then you'd have to play a poly. The thing is, the reason why I don't think you should ever main deck this is because I learned that you can use you can fuse multiple times with Soprano. So whenever you would special summon this to grab a poly, you could just special summon another Soprano to fuse with that. So once I learned that you can fuse multiple times with this, now I don't want to main deck Tam Tam and poly anymore. But yeah, it didn't come up yesterday, but I think in a big tournament with this deck, you would want to play this just for, obviously, for time's sake. But yeah. 3 cross out for going first. You play pretty much all the hand traps. There should probably be a bell in here so that you can cross out bell in case they bell your ostinato. And bell is just an okay card overall. I did not play bell because similar reason to goddess, I was late and I couldn't find it. Which is another reason why we're doing the sorting stream tomorrow, by the way. Deck building yesterday was miserable because I took me so long to find my cards. But yeah, crossout is good. I did something really cool with crossout. Well, not that cool, but I played 3 thrust. The idea was that if I get to go first against Tenpai, or I have to go first against Tenpai, I can use Ogre and I can use thrust for D-barrier. And if I go second, you can use thrust, obviously, for talents, for ostinato, for whatever. I played 1 duster as well. So the thing that you can do is you can side, going second, you can side cross out with D-barrier. Going first, you can side thrust with D-barrier. I think that's a neat interaction if you expect your opponent to be playing D-barrier. You could also try to play, you could play Simul Archfiends and then use that against Snake Eyes as well. But against Snake Eyes, I just don't side in the thrust going first. I just side in the cross out, so that's also fine. But this was the side deck I threw together. I have no issues with it, honestly. I played against, like I said, Snake Eye, Lab, and Branded, and then Chimera. I had something for everything except for I didn't have much against Lab. And that's the deck. I enjoyed it. I played terribly with it. I will say that. It's a lot more complicated than I expected it to be. It's also my own fault because I thought I could just bring a deck to locals for the first time, never having played it before or never having even looked at the combos in much detail. I think I got a little lucky to go undefeated with it because I did still go undefeated. After like a couple rounds, I kind of got the hang of it, and I only made like a couple mistakes here and there. But that's very natural. I think that's part of the process, and I still I think it says a lot about the deck's power, honestly. When I was able to play, I played against 4 meta decks. I didn't even play the decks super well, and I still was able to win. I thought it was a good deck. I liked it. And yeah, I hope I was able to showcase some of the interactions and some of the ways the deck works. Can you show us the combo? Look, the thing is, I literally, unironically, I did not go ahead and watch combo videos before I went to local. So unironically, I don't know if the way I was doing these is optimal. Herman is in chat. If I'm starting to do this now, probably not. It's probably not ideal. The way, because I was freestyling. I was freestyling the entire day, which was probably the fun part for me. If I were to take this deck more seriously and were to like prepare for Nats with it, obviously I would look into particular combos. But like Ostinato, for example, what I would do was what would I do? So there's 2 ways you can use Ostinato that I know. Like if you just have Ostinato, you always make Baja, and I think you either send like one way to do it was you can send these 2. Herman, you can let me know if this is what you prefer. But the way I was thinking to do it was you could do this, right? Why is this so shiny? I would put it into the extra monster zone, but just because there's glare up there, let's put it here. I would do this, and then this. I would summon. Where is it? I would summon this. But this summons in defense, right? Oh no, the from grave it summons in defense. So what you can do is you can summon this. You can add this back from the grave, and then you can use this to summon the refrain. You can also summon refrain immediately. I'm not sure which one is better. This is wrong. Oh, you can also summon soprano, I guess. Yeah. You can summon soprano, and it does the same thing. So I was doing it with this, but this is technically the same thing. You can summon this, add this back. This summons this. This adds the Chopina to hand then. Okay. Does that make a big difference? I guess you do have a fusion effect now. And then you scale this, right? And this grabs you Concerto. And then do we go... We probably summon a Toil here, right? This is the main way I think you want to play this deck. And this is also why I realized very early on, I looked at different deck profiles and I saw that there are some Odd Eyes, Absolute, and Vortex combos. I saw those. I'm aware of those. But I think the way you want to play this deck is you want to summon this as soon as you can to be protected from Nibiru, right? I think that's the way you wanna do this, right? And I don't think you need the Omni Negate Appaloosa sort of stuff. I think you should probably be you should probably just do this, right? You use Soprano to fuse with itself and Baja. Use Soprano to summon a Toil here using Chopina Couplet Refrain. With Concerto, you can go... Oh, you fuse the Chopina from the hand. Okay, I see. So these two into the extra. See, this is the thing. I was freestyling these lines and I would still get to an end board, but I would probably not even get to the ideal end board. That's the point. Like, it's good that Herman is here because he's probably looked at these in more detail. But so you summon this. These go back into the scales. Then you can use this to fuse, right? And then these two go into the graveyard. And then you can summon... Dude, this is so much easier than what I did to get to this end board. I haven't even Pendulum summoned yet. So now... this goes back to the bottom of the deck because this hits the graveyard. So you draw a card from that. The Baja can summon back the Chopina in the fence. This can add back the Soprano to your hand. Right? Or you can use this to send something else. Like if you want to make your deck targeting protected, you can send Aria, right? And then add that back if you want to summon that one. So is this, Herman, is this what you end on, roughly? Or do you commit more? Do you still go into like the link and all that? In like standard combos like these? Because you can definitely do more if you want to. You pass on this, right? Yeah. Like if you know the matchup, you could do more. Like you could... one option you have is you could go into the Link monster. Then you would probably summon something else. Like you would Pendulum summon differently. But you could go into like the Link monster. You could make a second Schuberta if you know it's really good in the matchup, right? Is there a way... I guess one cool thing about doing it this way, right, is that at this point, like before you Pendulum summon, right, before you Pendulum summon, if your opponent has Nibiru plus Effect Veiler or Imperm, they would have to do it now, because after you Pendulum summon, they can't target this anymore, which is nice. So if they do Imperm you here, then this goes into the graveyard, it floats, and you can still Pendulum summon. So yeah, this seems cleaner than what I did. But yeah, here you go. This is the thing is, and this is what I find honestly the most fun about a deck like this one is when I play it for the first time and I don't know what to do every single time, right? While this might seem like a bad thing, this is what made this deck fun for me yesterday, right? Because I did not know exactly what to do in every single spot because the deck does have a lot of options and I didn't look at it that much in advance. I like that kind of thing. It was fun for me, even though I didn't play it optimally, but that's okay. That's part of the process. Yeah, Melodious. I think it's a good deck. I liked it. I will maybe look into it more for Nationals. I'm not sure yet. It's still hard to compete, obviously, with something like Snake Eyes, because obviously, I mean, this was a one card combo and all that, but Snake Eyes one card combos are also pretty strong. So yeah. That was this week's locals report. Hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was a very enjoyable locals. Once again, leave a comment down below if you want to win the Zeus sleeves in the YouTube video, and go check out Haul On and use Josh5 for 5% off. on all kinds of OCG sleeves and other stuff. Link is in the description down below. Thank you for watching. Looking forward for more locals reports in the future. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, YouTube. Bye-bye. Are these sleeves legal? Yes, they're legal. They're official OCG Yu-Gi-Oh sleeves. What is your locals win streak? I mean, I've gone to, since the shop opened, I've gone to 4 locals. I haven't lost a match yet, but I will say yesterday was really close. Yesterday was really close because people are getting more and more competitive. And that's a good thing to see. But it was like, I did get a little lucky yesterday. Dude, there's also there's the guy that I talked about earlier, the round 3, the branded guy that I used Crow against and then went into Shopina and couldn't add back anything and all that. They had a GoPro and they recorded it. I don't think they've uploaded it yet. I can let you know once that's done, but you can see me scrambling with melodious lines in that video. It was very funny. Like I did lose that game. I did lose that game because of that. I lost game 2 because of that, and then game 3 I think I did a mediocre combo line going first, but I opened one of the barrier. So I was yeah, I was scrambling, but it was fun. DLO Yeet, thank you for the 2 months and the kind word. Appreciate that. Speaking of Jesse, Jesse messaged me, I think last week, and asked if we want to collab at some point, and I said sure. So that's gonna happen at some point. You guys can, I guess, leave suggestions as to what we're gonna do. My suggestion would be, since obviously Jesse wants to do something for his channel, I want to do something for my channel. I think we just think of like 2 concepts, one for his channel and one for mine, and then we run it. So that's something we're gonna do at some point in the near future. Not like super soon, because Jesse has a YCS this weekend. I have a busy week as well, so like it's gonna take a while until we do it. But like we're gonna do something. Speaking of Jesse, the next thing I wanted to do was I wanted to react to a Jesse video actually, because people have sent it to me, and I wanted to give my input on it real quick. Yu-Gi-Oh has a trap card problem. Now, obviously, people would send this to me as I am kind of like in recent weeks, I've been the trap guy. Watch the video I sent you. Which one was that? Oh yeah, no, this is open already. We're doing this one after. I'm saving the banger for last. The Tenpai Runic, we're gonna look at that one. No, this is a topic. I haven't watched this yet, but I do think I kind of know which direction this is going, because I've talked about this in the past already, where like trap cards for modern Yu-Gi-Oh players, trap cards have a bad, like, I don't know, reputation for no reason. What people aren't realizing is that trap cards, in theory, are the most interactive type of Yu-Gi-Oh card. Like, trap cards, in my opinion, are low-key the most fun way to play the game if it was the right cards, the right trap cards that people were playing, right? It's like, the problem is that trap cards in modern Yu-Gi-Oh like are either bad because they don't design powerful trap cards anymore outside of really broken floodgates, right? It's like, whenever a trap card sees play, 99% of the time, it's like skill drain, D-barrier, different dimension ground, summon limit, all that kind of stuff, right? Those are the kind of trap cards that are on par with the power level of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Because for some reason, they are not really capable of designing fun and good trap cards, right? Because that can happen. Look at the Ruma Karmic Cannon, right? That is, I think it's in the thumbnail. That's like the one like exception in recent years of a well-designed trap card, right? Like, because the Ruma Karmic Cannon is a strong card, good enough to see play in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Occasionally, and and doesn't just like say your opponent can't do this for the rest of the turn or can't do that for the rest of the game, that kind of stuff, right? And I wish there was more of that. I think that's the topic. I'm pretty sure Jesse would agree on that. I'd be surprised if not, but let's find out.
Last week, I ranted quite a bit on what I consider to be the worst element to Yu-Gi-Oh! Lingering floodgates. But I think it's time for some positivity, because at the end of the day, I really love this game, and I do want to share the positive elements that the game has, or the positive directions and trends the game has been going in. I want to talk about the new trap cards that I think are healthy for the game, and more of those should be made. This also ties into last week's video, because a lot of commenters mentioned how cards like Dimensional Barrier are actually helpful for trap decks, making them compete, because otherwise they'd be unviable. That's the
I don't know if I even agree with that, honestly. Like 99% of the time, if a D barrier is being used, it's not in a trap deck. Like I would argue these help every deck go in first and not just trap decks. Like it's not really a... Like that stuff is true for Karma Cannon, but I don't think it's true for D barrier. Like yes, Labyrinth, the thing, I think what people have in mind for this argument is Labyrinth specifically, right? They think the fact that Lady Labyrinth can search Dimensional Barrier is why Dimensional Barrier or Labyrinth is good. What people don't realize is that Labyrinth pretty much wins every single time if you play it correctly when you can resolve Lady Labyrinth to set a trap card. Like if you play Labyrinth and you get to the point where you can set and activate any trap from Lady Labyrinth, you should not need D barrier to win that game. And that's why I haven't been playing D barrier and Labyrinth for a very, very, very long time. Because if you can ever get that far, summon Lady, to activate a normal trap, to not get chain blocked, to chain Lady, and then to either already have Coup Clock active or live another turn, you should be winning the game anyways, right? Maybe not if your opponent has a broken branded hand, but that's like the only situation where you would need like a D barrier.
other mark people make to defend cards like Skill Drain, Anti-Spell Fragrance, Rivalry of the Warlords. There can be only one, cards like that. However, I think there is a distinction between a control deck that is derived from stun cards, floodgates, and a control deck that is derived from the more classical traps, cards like Torrential Tribute, Compulsory Evacuation Device, Bottomless Trapple, which...
Dude, all those cards, well, not Bottomless, but all those were in my Paleo deck in 2017, I'm pretty sure. Did it have Torrential? Maybe not. It definitely had Compulse. I think it had Torrential. Anyways, I think the other point is that if look, if these kind of trap cards, like even if those arguments were real arguments, they're like, oh, D barrier helps my trap deck, rivalry helps my trap deck, skill drain helps my trap deck. If that's the kind of trap decks that these cards facilitate, then I don't want them. I don't want those kind of trap decks. Those trap decks aren't fun. What's fun about that? That's not what you want when you play it. Like, in my opinion, you're not a real trap deck enjoyer when you defend those cards, right? Like when you think flipping rivalry and beating a meta deck with that is a fun experience, then I'm sorry this is not the discussion for you. You know, like we're talking about trying to make Yu-Gi-Oh a fun game, and it's not fun. And I'm not saying that some of the combo decks are like, because for some reason whenever you make these kind of arguments you're like, but you're okay with like the combo boards. No, I'm not either. Like that's also not fun, right? But one thing being unfun does not justify another unfun thing to exist in the game, right? At least in my opinion. I think you can criticize and on multiple ends, you know?
Yes, are mostly outdated and not that good right now, but it doesn't mean cards like that can't work in the modern as long as they are updated. And the most modern card like that, which I think is a shining star of what should be expected from trap cards and has seen meta relevance, is Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon. Yeah. Now, the biggest thing here is this card doesn't floodgate your opponent. It's a one-time effect only as well. So this means, unlike Dimensional Barrier, this isn't going to restrict what your opponent does, but it's also not going to have multiple effects. It's going to do one thing immediately, and then...
This is like, unironically, in terms of game design, probably one of the best cards from recent years. I'm not sure if it's the best, But this is a super well-designed card. This card is phenomenal. And it's a TCG exclusive, right? Like the same people that designed Ashen designed Karma Cannon. Crazy to think about.
Just that, which, you know, multi-part effects are not the end of the world, but it is kind of annoying how D-Barrier just persists the entire thing. But before...
Better than Rollback? It's not a better card than Rollback. But it is, I think, a better designed card than Rollback. Like, when I say designed, I mean, like, I don't mean, like, the power level. I mean the, like, how well made it is, right? Like, and I do like Rollback, but Rollback has a lot of, like, Rollback is kind of like a double-edged sword, you know? Like, the way I've been playing Rollback is really fun and enjoyable, I think. And I don't think the way I've been using Rollback in, like, Paleo is, like, problematic or anything, right? Like, it's fine. But Rollback, in a competitive sense, has a lot of ways of being abused, theoretically, right? And so it's like, it's a double-edged sword in that regard, whereas the Ruma Karma Cannon is, like, just super balanced. Like, the card is good, but not too powerful, and, like, if we had more trap cards like that, I think it would actually be more viable to play, like, real, like, interactive trap decks in. Like, hell, Karma Cannon is even a card that sometimes, like, it's a normal trap card that is not a floodgate, not a lingering floodgate, and sometimes, or often, it's even a good draw when you go second. That is a quality that almost no trap card has. Being a solid draw going second, like, it's not great, but it's like, sometimes it works. Like, you can't break the board, but you somewhat can set Karma Cannon, live the next turn. Like, that happens, right? And if we had more of those cards, you could actually go back and play, like, some amount of trap cards in, like, actual decks again. With, like, it's like, there's just not that many cards like Karma Cannon.
Before I rant on about that anymore, I've done enough of that. Let's talk about why I like the Ruma Cannon so much. So the big thing with the Ruma Cannon here is its removal. I think removal is one of the healthiest forms of interruption because it forces interaction a lot, and it means players have to be very particular and precise with when they're choosing to use that form of interrupt. Because if you use it inefficiently, you're not getting enough value, or it may not be hitting your opponent's
Wait. Couldn't... This does not have anything to do with the topic of the video, but I'm just realizing, I didn't realize this at the time, but couldn't Cam just banish Poplar and Ash here and then nothing happens? Because Karma Cannon has to flip something. Yes? Okay, I'm not tripping. Okay,
have
cool,
to be very particular and precise with when they're choosing to use that form of interrupt. Because if you use it inefficiently, you're not getting enough value, or it may not be hitting your opponent's resources or combos at a vital time, both of which will require the player using the interrupt to be knowledgeable and skillful, which I think are healthy elements of the game. And Ruma Cannon...
Maybe they already used SP? No, they did use SP, but they used it on the wrong targets. They did chain SP to the Karma Cannon, but what happens is if you use SP... Like, basically, if Karma Cannon resolves and there's only Link monsters on the board, then... Because the way Karma Cannon is worded, it says flip everything face down, then send everything that's still face up to the grave, or the player sends. So what happens is if there's only Link monsters on the board, the first part of the card doesn't happen. We don't flip anything, which means then doesn't happen. So if there's only, like in that scenario, if you keep Apo and SP on the board, if nothing gets flipped, nothing gets sent. So you keep Apo and SP, but it doesn't have anything to do with the video. But just yeah, and
you know, falls in line with that. The Ruma Cannon's uniqueness also just allows players to approach it when they
only links. You can't activate it. Yes, but if there were Snake Eye cards on the field, if you can get rid of those before the Karma Cannon resolves, then it was a legal activation. But then the monsters that weren't links go off the board. So now in resolution, it doesn't do the second part of the effect.
Have a read against it pretty differently. For example, if you're playing versus a Labyrinth deck and you have a read your opponent is playing the Ruma Cannon, then you can try avoid leaving any face-up monsters in the field that aren't links. Because if there's no face-up monsters on the field that can be turned face down, the Ruma Cannon can't be activated. So if you leave up a way to have follow-up through the Ruma Cannon, and then, for example, link your two monsters into Nightmare Phoenix with nothing else you can turn face down, while the Labyrinth player has no face-up monsters. And that's a way of mitigating Daruma Cannon, because if you can hit snipe the Daruma Cannon with the Phoenix, or you know where it is, then it's effectively beaten. And this is something the Labyrinth player will also have to be conscious of. This is a mistake that, for example, probably cost me my top 32 match at YCS Brazil. It creates layers to the game where both players have to be very conscious of what the other player wants to do and play around it. And I know I'm just talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! In that sense, that's what it is, but when these floodgate trap cards are activated, that type of thinking is really missed out on. That's not really what I have in mind when I think of a trap deck. And if I play for somebody who isn't super knowledgeable against how to play against trap cards, and they go about their Snake Eye combo, say, in an ordinary fashion, with no read on Daruma Cannon or how to play around it, they'll get Daruma Cannons near the end of their combo, they'll have very little recourse, and they'll probably just get obliterated. But this really falls in line with the Yu-Gi-Oh! That I look for, that rewards players who have done prep work and are good on the fly with adaptive thinking.
Yeah, so like basically, I think an easier way to put it would be like, think about the difference between playing a Snake Eye combo versus, like, let's say you have a Snake Eye Ash and your opponent has an Effect Veiler, just to bring some other form of interaction into the mix rather than just floodgates, right? Think of the way you can play a Snake Eye Ash combo into an Effect Veiler, or think of the way you can play a Snake Eye Ash combo into like a set card that could be a Daruma Karma Ken, right? Like it makes a huge difference, because if you normal summon Snake Eye Ash for both players, the fact if it's like an interactive trap card is way more challenging and skill intensive than if it is a hand trap or a floodgate, right? Like if my opponent normal summons Snake Eye Ash, well, I'll Veiler it, you know, not much to think about there. If I have a Karma Cannon and they have a Snake Eye Ash, a game happens, right? Like stuff happens. They think about, okay, how much do they commit? What do they search with Poplar? And I have to think about, when do I Karma Cannon for maximum effect? And they have to, like, you know, do I Karma Cannon Snake Eye Ash and Poplar immediately, hoping they don't have an extender? If I don't, then maybe they go for a Nightmare Phoenix instead of for the normal line, and so on and so forth. Like an actual game develops, and that's the goal, I think, of that. That's what the goal of trap cards should be. And the only problem with that in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that a lot of the trap cards that would facilitate that sort of gameplay are simply not good enough. And for some reason, they never really manage, or not very often, they manage to make actual good trap cards that are not just like floodgates.
And they're just expressing skill. And it's also this step up of elevation that these other removal traps from decades ago didn't have, because Daruma Cannon puts cards face down, but to bypass the issue that cards like Book of Eclipse or Floodgate Trap all have, being weak to Link monsters, it has the ability to send Link monsters to the grave. On top of that, it doesn't have a lot of the problems the trap cards have, being weak to immune effects, because if they have a Towers-like monster, like X-Pearly Noir, then Daruma Cannon goes through it. Same with a card like Sangan Summoning, Daruma Cannon will go through it. And I think it fixes a fair bit of the problem that trap cards have. It really gives it that level of power that is really worth running. It's not something to just be laughed at, as well as not being the problematic type of trap that I've talked about earlier. And this card has seen play countless times over the last few formats in trap decks, and sometimes even not in trap decks. For example, this was probably one of the best thrust targets to play, especially when Book of Moon cards were good. So like when I played Unchained back at YCS Vancouver, I'm pretty sure I played Destructive Daruma Cannon in that deck. I know if I didn't play it at that event, I did play it in Unchained at some points in the side deck. Now the thing is, balancing those type of traps can be a little problematic, because if you make the card too powerful, it does mean that every deck could decide 3 of it going first, and even if it doesn't floodgate your opponent out, it may be too much of a bolster for going.
To be fair, that is the case for every card, right? Like every card, if you're not careful, if you're trying to make a good card, you might make it too good. I mean, that constantly happens with monsters or spells that are not floodgates, right? Like you look at Poplar or whatever, right? That overtuned as hell. But I don't recognize, like, I don't think it's ever happened to a trap that wasn't a floodgate. Like, can you think in, let's say, like recent, like, I don't know, years, when has a trap card that wasn't lingering or floodgate, when has a trap card like that been problematic? I don't think it's happened yet. Like, you guys are saying evenly and imperm, those cards are not trap cards in the typical sense. Like, I mean, like an actual trap card that you're meant to set and then use on the opponent's turn. Like, I don't think I don't think that's happened. Revolt, I don't think Revolt's overtuned. I don't think Revolt is overtuned. I don't think Ice Dragon's Prison was overtuned. I don't know. Sixth Sense? Sixth Sense is from 11 years ago. Now think of that. I think that's a great point that we're talking about right now, because if I ask you the same question about, like, think of a monster that was overtuned in the last year that wasn't a floodgate, right? Think of a spell that was overtuned that wasn't a floodgate, right? Last set, you can name like 5, right? It doesn't happen with trap cards because I feel like they don't even try at this point. Because if they want to make a good trap card, they just give it a floodgate effect. Like, literally, the only card I feel like that tried to give us a good trap was the Ruma Karma Cannon. And that was a great success. People love the Ruma Karma Cannon. At least I do. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. Not everyone, but that's never the case. But, like, I think they should do more of that.
First decks that it becomes unhealthy for the game. So that is one other thing we have to keep into account. And the Ruma Cannon is pretty powerful, so you can't argue in some formats it does tread the line of what is acceptable versus what is not acceptable. That being said, I think board wipes are really cool to have. What I like about board wipes versus single target removal is the fact that both can exist in the same space forces players to be conscious of it when playing around trap cards. Another dynamic of the game that I think is largely lost because the traps that do that type of thing aren't viable. What I mean by that is,
so, like, I do like this point as well, because if you have a deck that has traps that punish overextension and then you have traps that deal with individual cards, there's this element to the game that doesn't really exist at the moment, where, like, you have to think, like, hey, am I going to try to commit little resources and apply pressure like that, but then I lose to, like, a single target removal? Or do I go all out because I expect my opponent to have a bunch of single card removal and then risk losing to, like, a high impact, like Torrential or whatever, right? That's a skill set that doesn't really happen in modern Yu-Gi-Oh anymore, because you simply don't have decks like that, right? Like, it's simply, there is no real card that punishes you for putting your entire hand onto the field. And I think one massive problem that we haven't mentioned yet that board wipe traps have for a long time, that only really the Ruma Karma Cannon solved well, was the fact that, like, cards like Torrential Tribute, in theory, are good cards that could see play at some point. The problem is when you go second, a card like Torrential, and this is a big deal with trap cards in general, is going second. When you want to make a good trap card that isn't just a floodgate, like Rivalry or whatever, if you want to make a good trap card, it has to be viable going second in some shape or form, right? For example, the Ruma Karma Cannon, if your opponent has a board, you can't break it, you can set Karma Cannon, maybe it gives you a chance. Maybe it doesn't, but it doesn't have to win you every game. It just has to be like viable. You not have to, like, want to immediately leave the table when you open the card going second, right? Like, for example, you guys are mentioning a lot of powerful trap cards like Solemn Judgment. If I draw Solemn Judgment going second, I'm looking at 5 monsters on my opponent's board, I'm looking at the Solemn Judgment in my hand, and I'm grabbing my side deck. You know what I mean? And Karma Cannon is not like that. And that's another problem that Torrential has, where if you set Torrential, your opponent can just attack you for game or use an effect to pop it or whatever before you can even use it. Like, I think a modern trap card would have to be activatable at all times, right? I think, like, waiting for your opponent to summon or something is something that would be a little outdated, right? There is other cards that could do that, like Needle Sealing, but Needle Sealing has other weaknesses, like not being able to destroy anything that's summoned with IP Masquerena or anything that's unaffected or stuff like that, right?
If you've played a lot of older Yu-Gi-Oh, I guess, where traps were more common, like if you're playing versus Paleo back in the day, you'd have to think of ways to play around wide removal, like Torrential or Needle Sealing, by committing less cards to the field, in which case you put all of your hopes into one good monster, and you could lose to a single Dynamiscus or Paleozoicadia. I think this level of choice and forcing players to make reads and calculated decisions is super intricate and interesting. Now, if you've played against or with trap decks, like actual trap decks, not stun decks like Labyrinth or Paleo, then you'll have seen this a lot. I think it's a really fun, different approach to Yu-Gi-Oh that is not like combo Yu-Gi-Oh. And when people talk about old Yu-Gi-Oh like Go format or Edison or whatever, it's not exactly the same because there's a differing level of control decks versus just a mid-range deck from a decade ago. But it does have some of those same elements and skill sets. And the thing is, those skill sets don't have to be lost in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! I really dislike that this control-based trap deck is mostly not viable. Now, I think Labyrinth does a great job at it because it fits the role very similar to a deck like Paleo or another control deck did. At least in the modern setting, you're not relying too much on floodgates. You're playing a trap deck that does a good job of snowballing value pretty well and using the turns you buy with trap cards into meaningful value to the point where you can win the game pretty effectively, as well as using some of these removal traps, some of those in the form of monster, because Big Welcome turns into Lovely, which is the single target pop, or Daruma Cannon, which is your board wipe. And that is what a lot of modern Labyrinth, at least in this current format, looks like. However, there are many formats in recent Yu-Gi-Oh! And probably in the future where we'll see.
There's this argument that modern Labyrinth is like more like a combo deck, which I think it's a fair point. I personally don't think Labyrinth classifies as a standard quote unquote trap deck that much, but I think it's a modern like interpretation of a control slash, you know, somewhat trap deck. I think it's a fair, like, it's very nitpicky to be like, yeah, Lab is not actually a trap deck. Lab is not a control deck or whatever. I think Lab in its core is like it's a fun concept, and it is kind of similar. It's kind of like a modern version of that kind of stuff, right? Because, and I think that's important to realize, is that I don't think the thing that you should be asking for, or also what I'm asking for, is I don't want to go back in time. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is always changing and needs to evolve. I don't want the same decks to be viable again, or like I don't want to go back to the old times in the exact same way. But I want more modern interpretations of that sort of playstyle, right? Like, that is a playstyle that has basically died out, right? And I think that is sad. I like that playstyle.
Zero viable control decks. And I don't want it to just be Lab being the only control deck for the next few years. I'd like Konami to put a little more effort into designing more of them. And it doesn't have to be specifically archetypes, right? Because Labyrinth is an entire archetype, but more impactful traps like Ice Dragon, Prison, Dogmatic, and Punishment, which were also pretty solid at improving this, put these decks in the right position. Now, recently we've seen an uptick in Paleozoic decks thanks to Josh and Transaction Rollback, but obviously this is far from meta.
I like how it's first Josh and then Transaction Rollback.
And just the fact that Daruma exists already gives it some sort of playability, at least at a rogue level. I just think that's super cool. So if we want more of those to be ingrained into the meta, then this is where I think card design has to go. The fact that Daruma again exists, and Ice Dragon Prison exists, and these new trap cards exist, shows that Konami is willing to go there to make these trap cards better. So I would like to see them continue to do it. Now, trap cards do have other inherent problems. We've talked about them in other videos. If you check out my highlight channel, you can see a video where I react to Farfa going over how he'd fix trap cards. And then I give my input on it as well. So I recommend you check that out so you can hear me talk about some of the other problems trap cards have and how to fix them. But I would like to see a future of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where trap cards have a place in the meta, and it's not only once every 3 years, and it's not within continuous trap, floodgate, skill drain, rivalry, barrier, because as someone who's played for 20 years almost, that is not the trap cards that I fell in love with. And yes, I know everyone thinks I'm a combo player, and I love combo decks. It is probably my preference at this point in my career. But the first deck I ever got a top with was this over 20 trap card BA deck. My first several tops, in fact, were with BA in its very control essence. Don't just assume that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to trap decks like this. I have a deep fascination for them and understanding of them that I
Don't let him fool you. He has no idea what he's talking about. He's a combo Andy.
Wish I could re-explore. I also like Paleozoic. I played that deck back in the day. I couldn't go to events because I was young, but I played it for months. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Destructive Daruma Cannon is a net positive on the game of Yu-Gi-Oh? And you want to see more traps follow step with the same design philosophy as Daruma Cannon or Ice Dragon Prison and such, that we can maybe see a more trap-focused meta or just more decks in the meta that involve traps in the future? If you also enjoy these type of discussions where I talk about design philosophies that
it was pretty much, I knew we were going to share the same opinion on that topic. I still wanted to watch it because I think it's a good point to bring up. But I knew we were gonna agree on this. Like the trap cards are in its principle. I think trap cards are great. I think it's a shame that trap cards are like trap cards have a bad reputation nowadays because of the trap cards that they've made that are actually meta viable, mostly being floodgates. And I think they just have I for some reason they are just letting this archetype or like the good generic removal traps, like good old back and forth like removal traps, is just an archetype of Yu-Gi-Oh cards that has basically died out. They haven't really like they're developing broken new monster archetypes and combos. They're making good and powerful spell cards. Like think of how many good like non-archetypal spell cards they've made, like in terms of staples. You know, they give you like pots for consistency every other like year or every other set. You get like tactics, thrust, all sort of tools, you know, like called by, cross out, lightning storm, all this kind of. They give you so many different ways to play spell cards in like generic in every single deck and all that. And they're making their ways into every single deck, right? And then like they make so many good. They even make good generic monsters that go into a bunch of different decks, right? But they just for some reason are not really attempting to make good trap cards. For some reason, most of the time they make a trap card, it's like some meme, like linear equation cannon or whatever. Like they probably put like 2 weeks into designing that card to make it as much of a meme as possible. They probably put more time into making linear equation cannon than they put into Poplar. I'm gonna be honest with you, but it's like it's just a shame that we're not getting many of those kind of cards. Their replacement for good traps is good quick play spells, right? See, the thing is, in reality, that doesn't even matter that much. Because yes, they could achieve this by making more powerful quick play spells, right? Because you can theoretically get the same that's a very easy fix to make an interactive card that is good going first and second, right? And it's proven that sort of concept is viable in modern Yu-Gi-Oh. Because look at super old cards, Book of Moon, Forbidden Chalice, Book of Eclipse. Those cards are seeing play. Like those, that's fine. That's good enough for modern Yu-Gi-Oh. Because if that kind of card exists, that's good going first, good going second, solid card to set, to use on your opponent's turn. And all of those cards are interactive and cool, right? The thing is that outside of Forbidden Droplet and maybe Metal Tronus, I don't even think they're making a real effort to create those kind of cards, right? Because all of those things that I mentioned are from like over 10 years ago, sometimes 20. Like what's Book of Moon, 2003? Enemy Controller, 2002? Like that's the kind of quick play spells we have to go to if we want to play quick play, like good stuff, removal kind of stuff. Like, why do I have to play a card from 20 years ago? I mean, it's cool. I like playing enemy, but like, give me something. Give me something. And the only thing we got is like Droplet, which is like, what, 2020 or something? It's also 4 years at this point. And Metal Tronus is like the first one in a long time that's like somewhat viable and cool. And I like Metal Tronus. I just want more of that sort of stuff, right? Because in reality, it doesn't need to be trap cards, right? Necessarily. Because what I'm missing, I mean, obviously for Paleo, it'd be nice if it was trap cards, but in reality, it could be a quick play spell that portrays the same level of interactivity. That's fine. Ultimate Slayer is fine. Have you ever tried setting Ultimate Slayer and then activating it on your opponent's turn? I feel like that'd be a funny interaction. If you ever do that, make sure to record it and let me know how it goes. But other than that, I think you've just completely missed the topic of the discussion. I don't know. I don't know if you know what we're talking about, but yeah. All right. For something, look, I don't know how to introduce this. What we're gonna do now. But this was something I was planning to do as a meme at some point to bring Tenpai Runic to a tournament. PH Flow, thank you for the bits and the kind words. Congratulations. Someone brought Tenpai Runic and got first place at a tournament. I don't know what tournament. I've just been sent. Obviously, I've been sent this, right? Do I need to explain why people sent this to me? No. Okay, good. Like, multiple people have sent this to me, and I think the top comment is also, someone sent this to Josh. Yes, of course, this found its way to me, and we're going to take a look at it. I don't have a better... I don't know what... I think it's funny. I don't know what the explanation is, but see what it does.
Hey, what's up, guys? Your boy Ed from TV. You already know I got my boy Jordan here, who just got first place undefeated, bro, with Runic Tenpai. All right, man. Tell me about the deck, bro.
Man, so at first it was a meme, but I made the meme come true. So we had to prove a point. I did, as a matter of fact, I didn't even know they were doing a mat tourney. I just showed up trying to show people that the deck could work.
That's a map, bro.
Exactly.
It's even stitched up and everything, bro. Look at that beautiful map, bro.
Beautiful, man. I wasn't not expecting it. I wasn't even expecting to do good. Things happen, you know, for good people.
It'd be like that sometimes, all right?
Yes, sir.
Let's get into it, man.
All right. So, of course, you play 3 Pydras, best starter, your second best starter, the Chandra, 3 of that. I play 1 Fadra because...
Syntax thing would have 4 months. So I have one question. Well, I have more than one question, but for now, one question. Or rather, 2 ways I think this could go. Maybe we're trying to OTK still, and we go into the battle phase, and our plan is to just use runics in the battle phase, like for example, freezing curses to negate like some of their interruptions or whatever, right? That could be one way how it wouldn't be incredibly stupid. The second, or like, yeah, we can like use Gary, like we can use every runic is basically a removal spell in the battle phase, right? We just crash a bunch of times, and then a lot of attacks have been declared, and then we can do Tenpai stuff, right? Maybe. The second option would be, and this is the crazier one, is have we maybe turned this into a runic combo deck where we don't actually care about the battle phase effects, we just use Tenpais as like tuners? But that can't be the way, right? No way.
I try to split it between the 2 engines, and you really don't want to see it, but you do need it as an extender.
Yeah, for sure.
Another pseudo starter I play is Fenrir, and then in the extra deck you'll see why. I know in the regular build you also play this just because it's just good non-engine. Then I played the 1 Rise Heart for the combo. Then you have 3 Ash for hand traps because you want to still slow your opponent down with the runic stuff.
I hate to say it, there might not be Fountain. There might not be Fountain because like we use all of our runics in the battle phase for like Gary. Like maybe it's like 3 Gary, no Fountain?
3 Mourner just because it's a
Mourner's good, bro.
These probably should be Valor, but I literally just threw it together. I was just memeing around, but deck worked.
It'd be like that.
3 Kaiman.
Yeah.
3 Kaiman, obviously, battle phase starter. Like, it's just a good card in general. It's like crack. This fill spell's broken. The singing summoning. Everybody knows what it should do by now. If
This
you're
card
playing
is
this format.
crazy, bro.
Yeah, it says you can't interact with me. And then here's some one-up fill spells. I played the 1 Pressure Planet to get to the Fenrir. It's also a starter.
Okay, so it's maximum 1
third
Fountain.
Fenrir also. You get these off the Ancient Fairy. Then I played a 1 Fountain because you still want it in the case that you do have to play runic, but you also aren't heavily reliant on it like other runic variants. And then my runic ratios, they're kind of weird because you want to use them as board breakers or like to clean up the field in the battle phase.
Yeah.
So I only play the good ones. I don't play like Slumber or anything in the main. So I played a 3 tip to get to the 3 curses if you need to negate something, the 3 destruction in case you need to pop something.
Yeah.
Comes up a lot. And then
Okay. That's what I thought was gonna happen. We're just playing 12 runics, so we go battle phase and we use the runics in the battle phase. I still have a problem with this. I still don't think this makes perfect sense because like, and I'm taking this more seriously than I should because I think it's still a meme, but if you think this through, the reason why I don't think it works is like, yes, you can go flashing fire in the battle phase to destroy something, right? The problem is that you can't use any of them in your main phase 1. So for example, if your opponent has an IP Masquerena and they want to banish your field spell with it, you can't prevent that with flashing fire, because otherwise you don't have a battle phase. And then also the other thing is, if you, let's say you have a, I don't know, a runic destruction, and you go to the battle phase, and you activate runic destruction, at this point when you're in the battle phase, all your stuff is affected, right? And so like if you hit a back row, they can still chain it and it would affect your stuff. Now you can chain like effects, synchro summon and all this kind of stuff, but it's like it's a little weird. It's a little weird still.
The flashing fire, get rid of stuff. Like,
so at the end of the day, I think this boils down to, it's just a slightly worse Tenpai deck that can still work somewhat. Like, it's not complete ass, but it's just not ideal because we're memeing around.
Problematic cards, so your attacks with the runic, not the runic monsters, the Tenpai monsters go through. Then obviously the things that you need, if you need to clean up stuff in the main phase, you have your 2 lightning storms, just get rid of problematic monsters or back row. And then last 3 cards are the 3 imperm. The non-engine I chose are just generically good this format.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is good going first or second.
Nice. Just look at that extra deck.
Yes, sir. We have the 1 Trident Dragon. You only can play Tenpai with this card. Please don't if you don't have this card. Ancient Fairy to cycle through the field.
Okay, I don't think that's true. I think if you have it, you should play it. But I do think you can play Tenpai without. Like, I think it's like not optimal, but I think it works.
Spells if needed, and it also helps you go going first. Then you have Black Rose Dragon. Obviously, the board wipe under the field spell is kind of broken.
Yeah.
You have the 1 Crystal Wing for the go first combo, the Sulkin for the go first combo, God card if you can like turbo those out in your main phase.
That was crazy.
2 of these. I played 2 for the go first combo just in case. You could also, I know in the regular version you can also banish it off prosperity if you need to. And this is the spice, I would say. The 1 Cherubini, the Promethean Princess, which I know they play. Seal's not really spicy. This is the Draco set.
Draco set's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fenrir into Rysart, normal summon Rysart, make it level 7, make Draco Sack, get 2 tokens, make Cherubini, send Pydra from deck to the graveyard, make Promethean Princess, bring back Pydra. So it's just another, like, it's just a convoluted way to get a 1-card starter out of Fenrir.
I'll explain the combo in a second. And then for the runic monsters, just for engine requirements, though, 2, whatever her name is, the Hugin, and then this.
Okay, not a single Gary has to be wrong. Not a single Gary has to be, like, that has to be incorrect.
Which is kind of crazy. It's a level 3, so you can synchro with, you can synchro.
Are you not locked? Not if you normal summon the, you have to normal summon the Rysart, but Rysart only locks you if you special.
With Chandra if you need to.
One rarity collection, might as well play with Senpai.
Hey, man.
All right.
And then, what
So,
do you got on the side?
the side deck, I don't have it with me. I was borrowing cards, but basically I did side in the Slumber. I sided in basically Slumber and just Floodgates for going first, just because you can play Runic Stun kind of, and then you use.
Sick. Hey, it's really cool. You can turn it into Runic Stun if you want to.
The Tenpai stuff, the OTK if you ever get the chance, but a lot of people just scoop after you like banish half their deck. Now, to explain the spice, because I think people need to understand that Fenrir is a very good card in this deck and it's a starter. So basically you special Fenrir, assuming you break, you special to Fenrir.
I mean, we've already talked about the combo and how it works. This, I've seen a lot of people play Fenrir in Tenpai. I haven't seen anyone do this. I feel like you could consider it. I mean, you have the 1 Rysart in your deck, which is not a great draw, and it takes some extra deck spots. But being able to turn Fenrir into a starter, in case you just don't open one, seems okay. Right? In a deck that otherwise doesn't have many, like, Tenpai doesn't have that many starters, right? It'd definitely be good if you could have an extra starter here and there, right? So I think it's okay. I think it's fine. And if you already have your starters, you can just use Fenrir as a good standalone card, right? You wouldn't play it after the next wave? Probably not, right? They get more starters and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you probably wouldn't play it next wave.
You search the Rise Heart, you normal the Rise Heart, banish 3, make it a 7. And then you overlay for the Draco sack, get your 2 tokens, and then you link the 2 tokens for the Cherubini.
It's like, the thing is, it's a super desperate line, because even if you have the field spell, all of this stuff is going to be affected, right? So like one hand trap is going to stop it. But it could be better than not having a way to play at all, right?
And then you dump the Hydra, and then you use these 2 to go into the Promethean Princess, and then you use this to special back the Hydra, get your search, and then you go straight to battle. And
Look at that. Look at that, bro.
It's so good, and I'll be honest, I'll probably win more games just doing that, and then like cleaning up stuff with like the hand traps and the lightning storm than I did with the runic cards. But
yeah, that's the thing, right? It still is, at its core, it's still a Tenpai deck. So that's why it still works, right? It's a meme, but it's a meme that can still work because it still has all the Tenpai cards and a bunch of hand traps and like lightning storm. Like it's still a working concept. But yeah, it is funny. It is funny. I think that ironically the most interesting thing was the Fenrir line. I'm pretty sure you guys are saying you've already seen it somewhere. I haven't been watching that many Tenpai deck profiles, I'll be honest. Like literally yesterday at locals there was another thing that happened that reassured me that I don't want to play Tenpai, and that is because round 1 I played against Snake Eye. I look to my left and people are playing a Tenpai mirror match and they are having a miserable time. So I don't know. I think Tenpai is a strong deck. I personally don't like it. I don't think I'm going to play it. But yeah, that's why I haven't been up to date with like Tenpai strategies and Tenpai goo and all that kind of stuff. But the Draco Sack Cherubini line is neat. Wouldn't that play work in Salamangreat? What, like Fenrir into Draco Sack? I don't think you have the extra deck space in Salamangreat. But in theory, you can summon any level 3 fire with that, yeah. But I don't think Salamangreat struggles for starters in the way that Tenpai does, right? Like it's like something like this is like a thing you do out of desperation if your deck is like desperately needing more starters, and I don't think that applies to Salamangreat. It definitely applies to Tenpai though, because that deck at the moment only has like 15 engine cards, and that's like kind of on the low. So they kind of want more, right? All right. So that was that. MG Nightmare, thank you so much for the prime. Appreciate that. Also Fabio Lol, thank you for the 6 months. Mathmech Runic when? Okay, never. New card? What new card? Let me see. There is a new card. Okay, perfect timing. I didn't see this morning. Did they just upload this? We have another card from the Animation Chronicle, so let's check this one out. Animation Chronicle cards are usually either really good or completely complete pack filler anime stuff. Grief Tablet, equip spell card. This card is always treated as a Weju card. I don't know what this means. You can only activate 1 per turn. The equipped monster cannot attack or be tributed. Also, its effects are negated. Once per turn, if you control the equipped monster, you can add a Weju card from your deck to your hand, except Grief Tablet. If this card is sent to the grave because the equipped monster was destroyed, you can inflict 500 damage to your opponent. Okay, so now I don't know what the Weju archetype is. It's the new Exodia field spell. Okay, well, regardless, I'll just rate this card in a vacuum, because in a vacuum this card is pretty good, because it's kind of a combination between Forbidden Chalice and Forbidden Chalice is a bad example. Axe of Fools, which is the equip spell that negates a monster, or Durandal, which you can equip and then search, right? So basically, if you draw this card, you can choose to equip it to your opponent to negate a card when you go second, but if you go first, you can also use it as like a searcher. Which is pretty good. That's a pretty good card. There's a lot of decks that would like this sort of card, right? Like you would play this, let's say it like this, you would play this in most archetypes if they had that kind of card. Now specifically for yugioh, I don't know if that's good enough, or if that makes the deck good. I don't know. I don't know what the search targets for this are. There's a tag here. What is yugioh? Okay, there's a tag yugioh, and when I click it, this is the only thing that comes up. No idea, but the card is good. I don't know if the archetype is good or not. Maybe there's still cards missing from it. Hard to say, but it cannot add itself. No, it cannot add itself. But okay, interesting one. All right. We have maybe 40 minutes until we do the podcast with Farfa, which today's topic, if you're here for TCG content, today's podcast is going to be for you, because we're going to be talking about Nationals results and current format and Nationals preparation as well, like because I'm going to Nationals in like 2.5 weeks and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's going to be the topic for today's podcast. In order to prepare for that, I wanted to take a look at the newest updates to the spreadsheet, which should have a bunch of nationals from the last weekend, simply because I wanted to look at that and maybe check out a deck profile or two of national season, right? Yeah, like I said, I was mostly going to focus on nationals, but if there's anything interesting popping up from like other lists, I'm also fine checking out other lists. YCS this weekend? Yeah, I know there's a YCS this weekend. We're going to be, by the way, we are going to watch the YCS, or I'm going to be here watching the YCS on both days. At least that's the plan. So I'm going to be live Saturday and Sunday and Friday for a Challenger Cup. So a lot of streams this week, which is why I took the last 2 days off. But yeah. Okay, what do we have? Tenpai, there's a Melodious deck, but the thing about Melodious, I guess that I didn't mention in the deck profile, Melodious deck lists, I looked into it yesterday. Melodious deck lists seem super cookie cutter. Like, there's very little variation from Melodious lists. But the gameplay is cool. But it's not really like, there's not that much going on in terms of deck building, right? More Melodious here. Chimera Melodious is an interesting concept. Snake Eyes, Tenpai Snake Eyes, Dynamorphia, Snake Eyes. Where is Nationals? Which one of these are Nationals? EU, down here. Regional, National. Herman won with Melodious. I can bring that up. That's on yugioh Pro Deck, I think, real quick. So yeah, I looked at this list yesterday before going to locals. I decided to not play the Pot of Desires. I decided to play Prosperity, but other than that, yeah, it's a good list. Then we have, what else happened? Rescue Ace in the finals, Snake Eye, Tenpai, Lab, Blackwing. Denmark Nationals was won by Tenpai. Oh, right. Wait, no, there's one thing I definitely wanted to look at. Hold up. Is that here? Please have a deck list. Spain. Yeah. Oh, there's no deck list. Dude, Virtual World won Spanish Nationals. That's crazy. How did that happen? Melodious got second. How? I don't know. But I think it was streamed. Dude, we can check out the file. Hold up. I don't know if we have enough time for that. Yu-Gi-Oh! Spain National. Yes. Okay. Hold up. Hold up. Where's the finals? This is the finals. Okay. No, I'm gonna check out that. I forgot about that. I heard about that on Sunday because it happened during my Challenger Cup. People came into my chat and they were like, did you see that Virtual World won Spanish nationals? Was that a list? Ooh. This list is from like 2 years ago. How this? Okay, skill drain explains a lot. But unironically, how does this beat Snake Eye going second? How does this beat anything going second? You have 3 Ash, 3 Imperm, and that's it. Your engine is not breaking anything. You simply win all the dice rolls. Okay. Well, they did win the dice roll in the finals. Let me go here.
A través de la invocación de esos Virtual Goal, vemos cómo manda esa magia, esa puerta del mundo virtual King Long.
I love Spanish.
Esos digis.
Let me. But So it's Virtual World against Melodious. Ooh. Orange light on the Lulu. Why is the cam so bad? I don't know. I tried making it higher quality, but this is the highest they got. I tuned into the stream at some point during the day, I think. But yeah, it was like they didn't have life points. They didn't have face cams. It was just a picture of the players. It was, yeah. A little bit of a lower budget production, this one. Okay, well, ending on Lars through Imperm and Herald is not terrible, but Imperm is pretty bad against Virtual World a lot of the time. But I kind of feel like the set card needs to be skill drain for him to win here. But what does Lars do again? Let me see. Lars is basically 1 negate. It's a 1 activation Lars, yeah. It's like Hot Red. Yeah, it's like negate a card and does it destroy? No. Doesn't even destroy. They negate the scale. Okay. First movement solo. This they don't win this game ever if they don't draw skill drain. I hate to break it to you, but they don't ever win this game if they don't draw skill drain. This is a carry by floodgate angle. And even with, honestly, even with the skill drain, if the Melodious player has I think they could win if they all they have to do is put something up that's bigger than Lars, which is 2,500. Like one way to fusion would win it. But they only have one card left in hand as well. But like in the long run, wait, don't you just win next turn? You can still search with this, right? For the concerto next turn. Or does Lars negate it forever? No, end of this turn. What's the stats on Zolkin? Isn't it 0? We can attack over, right? Yeah. Ah, we draw. Okay, I see. I think I'm afraid to report that it wasn't actually a virtual world that won Spanish nationals. I think what won Spanish nationals was a good dice and skill drain. So don't get your hopes up too much about virtual world. Yeah, Chuchi on the couplet hurts. But it's like still winnable. Oh no, they search. Yeah, they win this turn. Okay. The budget difference between French and Spanish nationals is killing me. I mean, to be fair, it does make sense that they put more budget into French nationals because it had like 6 times as many players, right? I think Spanish had like 400. Correct me if I'm wrong. But French had like 2,300. Like it's the biggest European nationals. $405, yeah. That's a lot of first movement solos. Take refrain instead of first movement solo. Okay, maybe we don't want to be locked. We get impermed on normal summon. We hard draw concerto. Up. That's neat. Baja. That double hand trap. Okay. Talents. Wow. So because we're not locked, we can still send with this scale effect, right? Send something. Then gravity controller, special back, soprano, add back. We can still do stuff, right? Is that cost on refrain? Can they ash that, or is that cost? No, it's not cost. They can't ash it. They should have ashed it, no? Because now it's like now you go gravity controller, summon back soprano, soprano add back sonata. You can special sonata and fuse with soprano. It's just unfortunate that you can't use the link if you do that. But they pass. Oh, they banished gravity for prosperity? Why though? When you're going first, why would you ever do that? Oh, but they top decked. They needed to top deck another because they had Ash plus Keenlong, so they need to top deck a virtual world, and they do top deck Lily. Okay. So literally what happened was they opened Imperm Ash Veiler and the combo through Talon's Hand Rip. It needs to be, yeah, it needs to be Lily or Lulu, right? I hate to be that guy, but I do feel like they got very lucky in this tournament. Which, I mean, I'm only seeing the finals, but this virtual world deck to me does not look like it's that good. It looks like a lot of stars need to align for us to be winning. But yeah, I mean they're winning this game, right? They're 2-0. Oops. Oh, it's not even game, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I expected when I heard Virtual World 1, but that's what we got. So look, Virtual World is like it's a rogue deck. It's not completely terrible, but I think the stars need to align in a very like specific fashion for you to win a tournament with it. This has not. Sometimes I see a deck that's not super popular, and then I try it or I see someone else pilot it, and it gets me thinking like, hey, that deck's actually maybe that deck's cool. Maybe that has more to it than what people think about it or know about it, right? Like for example, what happened with Melodious when I played it for the first time yesterday. I was like, you know what, this deck is only like not that popular, you know, but like I think it's got something to it. And then I see Virtual World, and it doesn't have that effect on me. It's like I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that I don't want to play that. I don't want to be reliant on opening skill drain or whatever and going first, because this list does not win going second without skill drain or a very lucky draw. But okay. That deck was not playing a card printed this year. I think you're right, yeah. Well, okay. Ooh, we have Salamangrate winning Slovenian nationals. That's cool. Are we doing No, we're not doing Pyro Phoenix. That's lame. Deck looks cool though. Parallel Exceed, Meow Mine. The Swedish Nats finals is up too if you want to watch that. What is that? You against is that you against Rescue Ace? We only have like 20 minutes left until the podcast, but if you link it to me very quickly, we can look at it. Maybe I can learn how to do a Melodious combo properly. Is this finals? Finals. Okay, so you impermed a Snake Eye Ash and they passed. Great. Ooh, and then that's neat. You start with first movement into Aria if you already have a normal summon. That's cool. Disabling Imperm and Veiler. That's neat. So refrain for Couplet. Oh, can Couplet? Wait, where did Soprano come from? Does Couplet summon from hand? Yeah, it does summon from hand. Okay. So we grab Concerto, we fuse the two scales into Baja. Baja 1, scales 2 and 3. Is it necessary? Is it necessary to special the Soprano from hand with the Couplet? It means we can fuse now in this spot. It plays around Ogre. It's my concern was it plays into, doesn't it play into Nibiru a little bit more? Could we summoned, it was Refrain, Aria, Baja, Soprano is 4, and then whichever one the Baja summons is 5, right? So we could have gotten nibbed right there. But I guess Nibiru is not that popular at the moment, so I think it's fair to be like, I'm going to play around Ghost Ogre, get an additional Soprano out. I think Ogre is more popular than Nibiru at the moment, so it's fair. This is Pendulum Summon, right? Did we just Pendulum Summon? I think we did just Pendulum Summon. So here, Soprano to add back and Sonata to boost the board. Not sure if we're going to keep it around. Add this back. And now we do the Desire. See, this is the thing. I think in these situations, Desires is really good in this deck. But I'm afraid activating Desires when I don't have a starter, right? Like, I think when you can already play, Desires is really strong. I think if you are looking for starters mainly, then Prosperity is better. You're a bitch, maybe. Look, I just think it's scary to activate Desires when all those one-offs are still in the deck. I'm fine activating it when Aria is already out, Concerto is like on the bottom of the deck and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm just scared to you know, to activate it at the start. So Soprano fuses probably into a Schaberta. Yep. And that is, how big is Aria? 14? 16? One of the two. I think it's 16. Aria is 16, so that's 21. This is 35. Toil is massive. 25, 21, 35 over Ash. Did we foolish anything with the scale? We could have gotten it bigger, right? Oh no, because we have the untargeting at the start of the turn. We couldn't use that. Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Clean. Yeah, that was clean play. That was clean play. I think the only thing that was weak to was Nibiru. I think Nibiru would have, like, that line would have been punished by Nibiru. But I'm not good enough with this deck to tell you if there was a better way to avoid that. This is Swedish Nationals finals. Okay, we have Imperm, we have Mourner, looking all right. You Imperm that. You Mourner Diabellstar. You hope they don't have... Oh, this is Rescue Ace, right? It's a little different against Rescue Ace, but still, fine. This game is awesome. Okay, we'll see. There's a 1-for-1. That's scary. There's an emergency. Was there a Rescue Ace in hand? Hydrant, there must be. Yeah, that's Turbulence, I think. So we Mourner the Hydrant. So 1-for-1. So you now don't have a monster anymore, but you can rescue the Special Turbulence. Dude, the funny thing is, if you have first movement solo, do you just not care about all the sets? Like, you just summon Aria and you vibe. You are big chillin', right? You don't care about anything. But you do need to open what's it called? You do kind of need to draw the first movement solo, right? Because if you, like, getting to Aria in other ways is harder if they can negate your stuff, right? Like, then the traps actually are good. Unless they let you get there too fast. Okay, Hydrant can still search. Preventer. Okay, literally all of this does not do anything to Aria, right? Like, if we have first movement solo, we just win this matchup. Grabs an Impulse to hand. Special, probably just Special Preventer. We can still 1-for-1 into... Okay, is that worth it? Discard the Impulse. Okay. Okay, one other question. Wasn't it better to grab Airlifter? Because then in theory, we could, like, discard Airlifter and then bring it back from Preventer, maybe, and grab HQ first turn. I don't know if it's necessary to do that, but I think you could have. But maybe you want to keep Preventer on the board. But I don't think keeping Preventer on the board does much in this matchup. So, like, in theory, I think it's best to get Airlifter into HQ going. Hawk. Hawk F. Why do people run Mourner over Veiler Imperm? People aren't running Mourner over Veiler Imperm. People are running Imperm, Veiler, and Mourner. Okay, Impulse back to hand, and now we link off the Flamberge and the Sunlight Wolf into something? Or these two? Oh, four. Okay. Yes, Apo. Okay, Apo at least does something against this. If we have Arya. See, this is where I think summoning back Airlifter would have been really nice, no? Summoning Airlifter could have given us a hand trap or something. We have Impulse now, but that's not that great, is it? All right, well, through two hand traps, this is definitely one hell of a board to make, but there's a first movement solo. I already saw it. It's the first card I saw. There's a first movement solo and a starter, so we just summon Arya and cook. The Appaloosa is like the only thing that can be a problem. The Appaloosa could be a problem if like we own. I think I saw Refrain. Which means that if Refrain is our only play, theoretically Appaloosa could negate that. But we can definitely out, because the Appaloosa was 3 materials, right? So it's 2400. And I think Refrain is 1600 attack. So if they use the Appaloosa now, you can go to battle phase and double it. And because of Arya, your stuff can't die by battle. So we can go battle and out Apo and Masquerena now. Probably the next step. And then hopefully you have an extender. I think the only real way to extend here would be if you hard draw. Well, there's a lot actually. It's Concerto, it's Couplet, it's Sonata, it's Canon. Okay, we don't care about the IP Masquerena, we just attack over the Hydrant. There's a lot of possible ways we can have. So now we just attack over the IP Masquerena. I think that's a Turbulence that they send. We're learning Melodious. I'm just looking at Swedish Nationals finals right now. Okay, we don't have an extender. We have to pass. Oh, that's not great. Now, one easy way in every fire deck to out the Arya lock is just Zelantis, summon back in face down. So I would guess that we can win here. I would be shocked if not. And here is where it makes a big difference that we didn't go for HQ last turn. If we went for HQ last turn, I would argue the game would end here, regardless of what's in Herman's hand. Okay, we just, yeah, we did that. Because if we had HQ, we would have more guaranteed ways to follow up, right? Okay, so at this point, literally any Melodious monster that's not Chopina wins the game. Yeah, second refrain. That's GG. Well, like, not GG. You still have to play it out, but like, that's pretty good. And we go 1, 2, 3. Scale again. No, you're right. The fact that you can't use the foolish scale effect of refrain with aria up is really relevant in a lot of these spots. I wonder if I did that yesterday. I wasn't aware of it. I don't think I have. I wasn't summoning aria very much at the beginning of my combos, but very good to know. Another thing that I very often didn't do is I didn't summon soprano that often when I didn't have anything to add back because I didn't want to miss out on the value, but solo for Elegy. Which one is Elegy? Can't be destroyed by card effects. Dude, if you summon Elegy and Aria, you're almost there. You're almost unbreakable. How does Melodious deal with Dark Ruler? Dark Ruler seems okay against it. It outs the board. They still obviously try to back it up with hand traps. Okay, we went to the battle phase. Bounce 2, banish 2. Attack and attack. Okay, we did banish the Aria. Now, just for completion's sake, I think I know how it works, but just to make sure, if the Aria returns now, it still counts as special summon, right? Yeah. I may or may not have never banished my Aria with Etoile yesterday because I was afraid that it would lose the protection, so I just never tried it. I just didn't do it unless I absolutely had to, which didn't happen. So I was just like, you know what? Instead of risking that now, I'll just leave it here. I'll just leave it. It's not worth it. I lost to Melodious Chimera at locals yesterday. It seems pretty strong. Melodious, I think Melodious is like two different topics, right? On the one hand, you have the Melodious engine in other decks and then pure Melodious. They're completely different from each other. But yes, Chimera Melodious is a strong deck, I think. But it's very, very different from what this deck does, I think. I mean, there's just no way they push through this, right? We haven't bounced yet with a toil. How do they push? What do they do? They're cooked. And they can't. You still have the Grave Banish too with the Schuberta, right? I mean, okay. Access code, you just use a toil now. Pop up. Rust is good, but not enough, is it? Talents take. To be fair, I'm playing no hand traps other than in-engine bestials, which I didn't see. Would definitely have helped. Yeah, talents doesn't do anything here. Okay. GG's. Well played. Okay. It is basically perfect timing because we are meant to begin the podcast right now. Let me check if Wawa is there. No, Fafa. Let me message him. So on today's podcast, just as a warm up, we're gonna talk about the current TCG format. So if that's what you're here for right now, because we've been watching current TCG stuff, then you might want to stick around for the podcast because we're gonna be talking about Nationals results, current format discussions, and also what is to be expected at the upcoming tournaments. Right, we have YCS Indianapolis coming up, which I'll be streaming over the weekend, and we have other big nationals coming up, like German nationals, Italian nationals in the next couple weeks. So that's going to be our topic for the podcast today, if Farfa ever manages to show up. I have messaged him. He's not responded yet. Well, we'll see. Give me topics to talk about in the meantime. Ask me questions, guys. Anything that's on your mind. I'm waiting for Farfa to show up. I don't know what to do. I have nothing prepared for this moment. It's awkward silence until Farfa responds to me. Oh, speaking of questions, we're doing a big Q&A stream tomorrow because I have to sort through my collection because it's really a mess right now. So I let you guys submit questions, and we're gonna go over these tomorrow on stream. It's gonna be all kinds of different stuff. There's like already 150 questions or something. It's gonna be fun. If you guys want to submit some last minute questions, I posted about it on my Twitter like a couple days ago. You can go check. The link is in chat. If you are looking to add any questions to the mix for tomorrow, feel free to do that. Other than that, tomorrow's stream is just going to be me going through my collection, sorting my stuff, and talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! And other stuff for the entire stream. Should be a fun time. I'm looking forward to it. We've done that before. It's been months now. That's why my collection is such a mess at the moment. But it was a fun stream last time. It's going to be a fun stream tomorrow. So you might want to check that out. Okay, Farfa is here. Up. Hello.
Late again. Late again.
What, me?
Yeah, as always.
Okay, I'm being gaslit.
Check the logs. Message 31 minutes past. Can chat hear me?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah! Woo! Und! Dude, I've been like having the most stressful morning ever.
What's up?
I wish Macedo was in real life, dude. But like the deck editor. I have like boxes of shit that I haven't touched in like
Oh yeah, that's what you mean.
6 years. It's awful, man.
I
there's, like-
went through the same thing yesterday. I'm literally doing a sorting stream tomorrow because my collection is such a mess.
Yeah, it's rough when you just can't click on the cards with the right mouse button and then put it into your deck
I
list.
did not play Goddess at locals yesterday because I couldn't find it.
Wow. Hope you didn't get noired.
No, I did not get noired. Thank
Okay.
God.
Oh, did you see I ratioed you yet last night? That was pretty good.
With the SpongeBob meme, yeah, I saw that.
This one doing the numbers, Mom. Is it paying rent? No, but Josh's viewers, they're going to think I'm really funny. Is that what it feels like when you go to locals? Like, just like these 14-year-olds who are just all like, not the world champion again.
No, I mean, some people said that, but like for the most part, it's like real decks now, so.
Real decks? Do you have any friends there? Or like, what I mean is, did you have to make friends or did you? Or
There was no
people?
one there that I knew beforehand, if that's what you mean.
Okay.
But I do get along with them, well, you know.
Man, these like 14-year-olds are like Josh walking up to locals. Oh,
I don't think
9X!
anyone is 14 there, by the way. They're all like my age, right, for the most part.
Oh wow, just a bunch of pensioners, just retired.
I don't know
men.
if there's any. I don't know if there's anything yesterday. No, I mean there's probably some people a little younger, but there's no. There was no like kids.
Yeah, just Josh's teammates and his opponents who are all children. Oh nein, es ist Joshua Schmidt. Wir werden sterben. Oh nein. Isn't Farfa older than Josh? Emotionally? Nah. I'm a young one. I'm a Gen Zer.
Okay, I hate to interrupt you, but do you have any intention on clicking on the OBS Ninja link I sent you 3 minutes ago?
Okay, do you have any intention of putting up the correct overlay on the screen?
No.
Alright, well. It's on you, I guess. No way, Fafa thinks this is still a children's card game. When I open a booster box and I look at the age recommendation, it says 6+. So, technically, this is a children's card game. If you guys have ever looked at the damage step rulings, you'll know that it's pretty straightforward stuff. Man, I have that. Oh, nice British internet. Apparently, I have the audacity to try and look forward to buying Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And Josh, have you just like not said anything in like 5 minutes? Am I just like streaming?
I haven't been talking. No, I've been listening.
Okay, I'm just streaming, I guess. I went on Card Market and I did the foolish technique of setting seller location to the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And here I was trying to like purchase some like Ritual Beast cards in preparation for the new support.
Mm-hmm.
And well, guess what? That deck had not had a printing since 2015.
I went through the same process, even though I'm sure it wasn't as painful as yours, because I ordered from like I think I heard a bunch of times from my chat that like ordering from the UK is a pain.
Yeah,
but
Brexit means Brexit. Oi oi.
Yeah.
There's I think like 5 copies of Ritual Beast Elder, because it's a secret rare. They're like £30 a playset. For yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Yeah, it's not ideal. And then if you buy from like fucking Czechoslovakia, you have to pay like tax on like your 10-cent fucking Melodious Soprana or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like such a pain buying cards in this country.
Well, just
pay
pull them.
Yeah. Anyone got some Secret Forces boxes for me? Let me know. All right, we good to go.
Sure, we can keep the app in for the
yeah,
first
I'm
portion.
gonna go to locals afterwards. It's gonna be fun. All right,
We can talk about that.
should I start?
Yep, ready.
3, 2. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Heart of the Cast. I think we're almost at 20 or something now. Today is our roundup of nationals, or closing in on some more nationals and the WCQs. Isn't that correct?
Yes, nationals roundups, because we're like, I want to say halfway through in Europe with national season. We have YCS Indy coming up, so I figured like talking about the format a little bit would be a good time. We have some other big nationals coming up. Some of the really big nationals already happened, which was French nationals, which is probably the biggest one. I don't know exactly how many tickets German nationals had, but I think French is likely to be the biggest this season, so that already happened. So we're going to talk about the format a little bit, and I think, spoilers, I don't think it's just like, Snake Eye's still the best deck, but we're going to talk about that a little bit. But there's been a lot of other stuff going on in nationals, and I think it's a good time to talk about that a little bit, because it's been a while, I think, since we've just talked about the TCG.